What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 7SL Chapter 138 Whether you are human or a god, you should be more cautious when you get old. Odin is dying. Asgard, it's been a long time since we've had any visitors. An old and calm voice came slowly. An old man wearing a battle armor walked out from the deepest part of the palace. God King Odin. The old man finally appeared, with an old and white beard hanging down to his chest. He looked like a majestic and kind old nobleman. But Li Yi's eyes became slightly serious. Undoubtedly, the strength of this God King Odin is definitely the existence of the real level Godfather, but the seemingly old body contains extremely terrifying divine power. A strong man who can conquer the 9 realms. A God King who can suppress the Frost Titan and control Asgard for a long time. An overlord who set out to create infinite weapons with the same fiery and crazy ambitions when he was young. Li Yi parted his lips and smiled, and nodded his head in satisfaction. This is like a qualified opponent. Odin is wearing a battle armor, showing a majestic color that has never been seen before. At least in the eyes of the vast majority of young people in Asgard today, they have never seen this kind-faced old man, making such a solemn and dignified fighting posture. People have even forgotten. At the beginning, it was Odin who led the Asgard warriors to sweep the 9 realms and create the supreme kingdom of God. Young man, I know why you are here. There was a lot of commotion in that place. It seems that a powerful magic Asgardian was also defeated by you. Odin said in a deep voice. His tone was a bit dignified. He felt the death of Ancient One. It was a powerful human magician that made him somewhat afraid. In those ancient years, when the 9 realms were fighting, Odin once cast his eyes on the prosperous and weak human world, but there was a hero who came from the world and blocked Asgard's iron hoof from outside. Now, that sorcerer supreme has actually fallen and died in the hands of this young man. I don't have what you want here. Go away, Asgard. Don't want to get involved in trivial disputes. Odin said in a deep voice. However, his request was very straightforwardly rejected by the young man in front of him. Li Yi shook his head calmly, and said calmly, I'm sorry, maybe you misunderstood me. The purpose of my coming to Asgard is to get what I want, not to ask for alms from you. Actually, I'll take them whether you agree with it or not. Advertisement. The breath dropped to freezing point in an instant. Knowing that it was impossible to talk anymore, Odin sighed deeply. With white hair, at this moment there is no wind and it will be automatic. This powerful level Godfather deity. The originally old and wise eyes now showed long-lost anger and fierce fighting spirit. Young man, I gave you a chance. The majesty of Asgard cannot be violated. I am Odin, the king of gods, and I am the minister of the 9 worlds. Above the sky, the clouds were surging, and the vast sea of clouds suddenly gathered together, forming a face somewhat similar to Odin's. Immediately afterwards, the huge face formed by the gathering of endless clouds roared at Li Yi. Get out of my sacred soil. This is the last chance, otherwise stay forever. So, it's over. Li Yi smiled lightly, and his figure disappeared instantly. Boom. The terrifying aura rose against the sky and dispersed the sea of clouds in an instant. At this moment, the figure of the man turned into a ferocious and roaring terrifying dragon, wreaking havoc in Asgard. Let me see the treasure house with the infinity gauntlet. Where is it? The voice of the dragon chant came from above the sky, and it was unscrupulous, and it didn't take Odin seriously at all. The old man was completely angry, and the power of thunder stronger than Thor surged on him. As the true lord of the 9 realms, Odin possesses the power to control everything. Even the secret spell on Mjolnir is bestowed by him. Gun. A silver spear flew from the depths of the palace, held by the old Odin. The characteristics of the Asgard people are very special, weird and powerful. The older they get, the more terrifying their strength will be. Odin has reached his old age. Although his spirit is no longer there, he is about to step into the death of God. But in fact, his current power has reached the most terrifying height. No one dares to challenge the power of this God King. Die. Roaring, Odin charged into the sky with the Gungnir in hand. Advertisement. At this moment, countless people of Asgard all looked up at the sky, watching the contest between the Supreme God King in their hearts and the invader. For thousands of years, Asgard has not experienced a real conflict for a long, long time. They were immersed in the quiet and peaceful environment, and even forgot about the real battle, until now they saw the God King's brave and fearless posture even though he was old. Immediately, the blood in the hearts of these Asgard people was ignited again. Your Majesty, expel that damn intruder. ***** Supreme Odin, please behead that intruder and defend your Majesty. Countless clansmen were praying, watching the incomparably terrifying collision above the sky. Li Yi is on the move, using a lot of powerful magic to fight against ability and Odin in hand-to-hand combat. After another violent collision, Odin gasped and retreated into the void. Boom. There is no limit to the heroism of the Asgardians. The terrifying and ferocious dragon claws directly tore his armor, followed by a heavy punch full of explosive power, which bombarded Odin's chest. He looked at his arm. Li Yi suddenly smiled, stretched out his clenched left fist, and said to Odin in a deep voice. Whether you are a human being or a god, it is better to be cautious when you are old. The corner of Odin's mouth, at this moment, Wang Qianhao, overflowed with a trace of blood. Even though Li Yi's dragon blood body is extremely tough, he doesn't want to rashly use his own to try the edge of the eternal spear. Kunganil used the superb, spear swinging, and even Li Yi had to dodge the sharp point. However, it only caused some damage. The tip of the spear that pierces everything has the power to kill gods. In the collision just now, he was wounded by this weird person. The old man who had lived for a long time was almost beaten into cardiac arrest. The tough and powerful dragon scale, which can resist magic, has a clear gun mark on it, which was touched by the gun of eternity. It has to be said that this supreme artifact is indeed sharp, and it can also cause damage to one's own dragon brain. Intruder, you are destined not to get those things. It has to be said that the King of the Nine Realms is indeed a master. He is also proficient in many magics, and has the blessing of combat secret spells. Moreover, the battle-tested Odin is also very good in fighting. Looking at the old man who was still stubborn, Li Yi calmly waved his hand. Chapter 139 Infinity Gauntlet. Is it a fake? Taste the taste of evil. Li Yi spread out his palm, a green gemstone blooming with brilliant light. It is the artifact inherited from Sorcerer Supreme. Called Eye of Agamotto. Definitely in the universe, it is better known as Time Gem. Possesses the ability to manipulate time. Odin was also impressed with this gem. When he was young in the past, he fought in all directions. He once forged the Infinity Gauntlet, trying to control the abilities of the 6 Supreme Gemstones, but it was a pity that he failed in the end. Especially when he pointed his sword at the world. The female magician with the Time Gem stood up and fought against herself. At that time, he had personally experienced the power of Time Gem. Ancient One is dead, and this fetish has also fallen into your hands. Odin's expression became more serious. Suddenly he thought of a terrible fact, and his figure quickly swept back, wanting to escape, but it was too late. Above the sky, Cigarette smiled coldly. The Eye of Agamotto in his hand exploded with bright green light. The powerful power of time impacted on Odin in an instant. The snow-white long beard hanging down in front of him suddenly swelled. Odin's body shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye. He was already close to old age, and it would not be too long before the day of God's death, but now he was under the acceleration of 380 by Time Gem. Almost in an instant, he was sent to the dying moment by Li Yi. Ha ha ha, Your Excellency the God King, say goodbye to your lover and children. Watch as Odin falls from midair, dying and weak. It caused countless Asgard people to exclaim. Li Yi smiled indifferently. His eyes had already fallen to another place. That's the way to the vault of Asgard. This God King of the wine world, the treasures of the long years are stored there. Many things, even Li Yi is interested. His figure slowly walked into the distance. At this moment, no one cared about the intruder's actions. Even if they wanted to stop them, they would be powerless. Their attention was focused on Odin. Numerous Asgard people rushed forward like a tide to rescue their God King. Advertisement in the Long Temple. Li Yi walked swaggeringly. Randomly blasting through the door of the treasure house, he just walked into the deepest part. Odin's treasure, Curry, stores many things. The bones and weapons left by the Frost Titan, as a symbol of the victor, are also preserved here by Odin. Li Yi found the huge amounts of Infinity Gauntlet first. It's a pity that the moment he saw the glove, he frowned, and slapped it into scrap metal. Yes, it's actually a fake. Ordinary materials cannot withstand the power of gems. When Li Yi saw that glove, Li Yi had already understood it. Maybe Odin did create an Infinity Gauntlet when he was young, but now the real one has gone to nowhere. The gloves left in the treasury are just imitations made of gold, without any actual function. Damn. Li Yi frowned, then turned his gaze aside to the blazing eternal fire. As the price of deceiving me, setting a small fire here is not too much. Li Yi stared at the magnificent palace outside. The splendor, antiquity, and powerful heritage of Alaska are vividly displayed. Before setting fire, Li Yi continued to stay in Odin's treasure curry for a while. Unfortunately, although most of the items have powerful magical abilities, they are not enough for Li Yi to fancy. After a while, Li Yi shook his head in disappointment, and the somewhat irritable dragon tail violently swung, smashing the ground into deep holes. Dignified God King, have all these years lived on dogs? Not a single precious treasure was left behind. Not even the ether stone in Li Yi's impression. Did I come too early, or did Odin hide things early? Li Yi shook his head in distress. If that's the case, this trip to CBFE, Sigard will be in vain. Suddenly, there was a sound of low footsteps in the dark corridor. The pace is steady, with an amazing breath. A woman dressed in black and wearing a crown slowly walked out of the darkness. She exudes a pure breath of death, holds a sharp sword in both hands, and has a cold and brutal killing intent in her scarlet eyes. The moment he saw the woman, Li Yi's expression changed. Advertisement, oh, it doesn't seem to be in vain. If Odin really forged an Infinity Gauntlet when he was young, surely this woman should know something about it. Hela, who just escaped from the seal at this moment, exudes infinite anger. The old guy is finally dead. Even if he is not dead, he is not far from death. His strength has weakened to the extreme. Hela was a little confused. Although she knew that Odin's life was not long, but before that, the seal that imprisoned her was still strong. Only a moment later, the power of the seal collapsed and became extremely weak, so Hela directly attacked, broke the seal and descended on Asgard again. Who are you? Why are you here? Where's Odin? Hela frowned, looking at the half-human, half-dragon monster in front of him. A servant of which Asgard are you, or a mercenary from the 9 realms who came here? She asked, wanting to subdue this dragon-like monster. As a deity of Asgard, Hela has no particular preference for human appearance. Even those ferocious and terrifying beasts are actually quite handsome. The monster in front of him was just like this, with the hideous and terrifying dragon horns and tall and burly body. Everything was just right, showing the proportions of a perfect creature. Odin? I don't know, maybe he's dead? Seeing Hela appear, a special idea suddenly appeared in Li Yi's heart. In world number 1, although I have tasted the taste of many superheroes including Black Widow, but this goddess Hela, who is named after darkness and death, seems to have never experienced it herself. There was a ferocious smile on his face, and even his breath became a little heavy. I've always wondered what an evil woman would smell like. Turning into a monster like a dragon, he said indifferently. Under Hela's incomparably astonished gaze, this huge monster rushed over directly. B************* D thing, the majesty of dancing gods. Hela roared and waved the sharp sword in his hand in response. Boom! Under the terrible confrontation between the two. Odin's treasury, reduced to ruins, a moment later. The huge and ferocious dragon dragged the goddess of death, who had lost her ability to resist, into the land of shadows. Chapter 148 Gift for Hela, Teach the Flame Titan, an Unexpected Surprise. In the smoky ruins, Asgard, the famous goddess of death, is struggling to fight a dragon. The pitch-black battle armor was torn apart, and the death cloak was thrown on the ground as a carpet. It is a pity that her power may not be restored due to being sealed for too long. In the extremely fierce hand-to-hand combat with that dragon, he was firmly suppressed at the disadvantage. I will definitely kill you, Hela screamed almost frantically. Immediately, his head was held down by huge amounts of dragon claws, and he was forcibly bent in an extremely humiliating posture. Evil woman, she really has a different taste, Li Yi said indifferently, but with a pleasant smile on his face. Dragon blood awakening, his current physical strength is almost unlimited, and more importantly, a certain attribute hidden in dragon blood is also quietly affecting his sanity. After a period of time passed into days, Li Yi stood up contentedly. He forcibly dug down the ruins several meters deep. Hela, who was already unconscious at the moment, was lying there with her face on the ground. After all, I came to Asgard, and I can't go back empty-handed. Li Yi smiled calmly. He is a very kind person. After the fierce confrontation with Hela just now, he also left a small gift for her. I hope the sown seeds will germinate. I am looking forward to seeing the moment of surprise. The man said slowly, then turned and left. Since Asgard doesn't have what he wants, it's meaningless to stay here. Back in Odin's treasury in Asgard, Li Yi picked up a huge amounts of horns from the ground, and threw it into the eternal fire. The raging flames rose instantly. Under the huge amounts of horns, there appeared a ferocious howling, roaring and constantly flaming face. Like a terrifying Balrog recovering, fierce flames rushed over. The newly revived Flame Titan let out an angry roar. It noticed a man nearby. His chest was filled with flames, burning with an endless desire for destruction. Advertisement. The Titan looked at the man. His flaming eyes were filled with an incomparably terrifying burning will. Don't look at me like that, it's disgusting to look at me impolitely. I can release you, or I can kill you, Li Yi said calmly, stretched out his hand and punched out, hitting the horn of the Flame Titan. Boom! In the eternal fire, the rapidly expanding Flame Titan suddenly faltered. With huge amounts of flame horns, an extremely clear crack appeared. Roar! The Flame Titan roared, but a touch of fear was hidden in the deafening sound. For this Titan, this is an emotion that has never been experienced before. Even if it was decapitated by Odin in the past, it is only full of anger and unwillingness. In a heart full of desire for destruction, I have never feared anyone. Until now. That man's powerful punch made him truly understand what it means to have someone beyond a human being, a sky beyond the sky, and a god beyond the gods. With a random blow, the unknown Flame Titan was cast out of the psychological shadow. Li Yi is planning to leave here. However, a figure in a green robe passed by in a hurry, and the afterimage made him feel a little bit interested in an instant. It seems to have forgotten a very interesting existence. Li Yi said softly, and stepped out. The next moment his figure instantly appeared in front of Loki. This deity, famous for his deceit, is holding a cube that shines with azure light in his hand. Among the seemingly small objects, there is a brilliant light surging, containing the power to destroy the galaxy. Such a gift, do you want to give it to me? Li Yi said lightly. Seeing him at this moment, Loki was stiff, with cold sweat on his forehead. He has no way to deal with such a terrifying enemy who can defeat the god King Odin face to face and crush Mjolnir with one hand. Respected Your Excellency Li Yi, I heard that you were looking for Odin's treasure. I was about to bring this supreme treasure to you, but unexpectedly I met you. Loki's complexion changed suddenly, revealing a flattering smile. He bent down respectfully, and handed the tesseract in his hand to Li Yi. I have to say, you are indeed a very alert god. Li Yi said with a half-smile. Advertisement. He took the tesseract handed by Loki, looked at it for a moment, then patted the deceitful god on the shoulder and left. Watching the figure of that man leave slowly, the fear in my heart dissipated. Loki wiped the sweat from his brow, sighing with emotion like a murderer. Asking for flowers. What a horrible existence, such a powerful person will be born in this world. Is there something different in that world? Or maybe this person has an even older bloodline of the gods. Silently guessing Li Yi's real identity, a mischievous smile suddenly appeared on Loki's face. No matter how strong the power is, it cannot compete with wisdom. In front of the god of deceit, all the strong can only be reduced to puppets. He smiled confidently, reached out and groped behind the cloak, and randomly took out an identical tesseract. This is the real thing. The tesseract that was taken away by Li Yi just now is obviously an illusion created by the deceitful god through his own magic power. For the god of deceit, what ability is more important than illusion? Zero Loki shook his head lightly, full of confidence in his heart. The man who could defeat the god King Odin was deceived by himself like this, it seems like that's all. Just when he was planning to take advantage of the chaos in Asgard and abscond quickly. A pitch-black figure appeared in front of Loki again. I walked a little too fast just now, and I didn't seem to hear Mr. Loki's voice. Li Yi still had that mysterious smile on his face, looking at the god of deceit who froze instantly in front of him. He calmly stretched out his hand to take the real tesseract from Loki's hand, and the fake Rubik's cube in the other hand shattered. You're a nice god, at least in my opinion, very interesting. Although defrauding me is a felony, I'm still willing to tolerate it once. Li Yi said calmly, then stretched out his hand and flicked it lightly. The next moment, Loki, who was wearing a green armor, wailed in pain and knelt down on the ground. He covered his left eye, and a trickle of blood continued to flow out. Take one eye as a small price, and live well. I look forward to your continuing to please me. The devil-like man smiled contentedly and crushed the real tesseract. One of them was exposed, blooming with azure blue radiant gemstones. In a blink of an eye, 1/3 of the 6 infinite gems representing the balance of the universe gathered in his hands. For a snap of fingers with great anticipation, Li Yi also began to have his own plan for in his heart. Chapter 141 Wherever you look, you are invincible, looking for the traces of the elves. Rumble. Beyond the great city of Asgard, Sandman and the Lizardmen were not in a good position at the moment. They were under unimaginable siege. Although the strength of most people in Asgard is not strong, even very ordinary, but most of the ants killed the elephants. Under the overwhelming attack, the lizard people were beaten and ran away. If it wasn't for Sandman's timely shot to help, perhaps this one, with huge amounts of lizardmen, is about to fall on Asgard's Bifrost. Damn it, their offensive is too powerful, that kind of inexplicable force can hurt me. Sandman roared angrily, his sandy body seemed invisible, able to exempt from most physical attacks. But it is a pity that many people in Asgard have mastered magic means. For Sandman, that offensive is no different. It was precisely because they experienced the terrifying artillery fire that they missed Li Yi's 523 power even more. That man is so brave and unbelievable, standing in front of him alone is enough to shock the entire Asgard. 2 old boys, glad you're not dead yet. The figure of Li Yi slowly appeared, walking calmly, looking at the 2 subordinates who were frantically dodging on the Bifrost. He patted his head and remembered belatedly, I rushed into Asgard just now, looking for treasure. Afterwards, some interesting exchanges with Hela, the goddess of death. Inadvertently, these 2 subordinates who were waiting outside Asgard suffered a terrible attack. The grief of the fall of the god King Odin stimulated the people of Asgard, and many people attacked with great anger, pouring their anger on these 2 subordinates who followed Li Yi. With the arrival of that demonic man again, many Asgard soldiers panicked and even showed signs of defeat. No matter for any creature, bullying the weak and fearing the strong is an instinct. In front of this man who severely injured god King Odin, they didn't have any confidence to dare to provoke him. I suggest that you turn around and look at the courtyard behind you, it seems that something is on fire. Li Yi stretched out her hand calmly, and pointed to the majestic palace complex in Asgard. At this moment, a huge amount of flame titan appeared. In the blazing burning of the eternal fire, it became bigger and bigger. Its figure was almost on the same level as the tallest building in Asgard, and a huge long sword condensed from the unhealthy eternal fire emerged in its hand. The prophecy of the extinction of the flame titan has appeared. Do not know how many people in Asgard are in a state of tension at this moment. Advertisement for them, this is the oldest prophecy. When the fire titan comes again, the whole of Asgard will be destroyed. Seeing countless Asgard people trying to fight against the flame titan. Satisfied, Li Yi smiled, it's good to get restless. He turned around slowly, took Sandman and Charm away from Asgard. He had already asked Hela about the matter related to the Infinity Gauntlet, the goddess of death, who was very stubborn at the beginning. However, with the continuation of in-depth exchanges and the super-long display of her own ability, she is now unable to resist, and can only remain silent, not wanting to use fierce counterattacks to arouse this man's fanatical interest. For Li Yi's question about the whereabouts of the Infinity Gauntlet, Hela responded silently. In this regard, Li Yi's approach was to directly F***K ability to copy it, and then the violent spirit invaded Hela's will. In the spirit of the goddess of death, a very long and in-depth exchange was carried out. In this exchange, he got everything he wanted. The Infinity Gauntlet is indeed God King Odin, who spent a lot of money to build it when he was young. Even in order to find the 6 gems in the universe, he went out of the 9 realms and went to other star fields farther away. But in the end it didn't work out as expected. The power of the Infinity Gauntlet cannot be manifested without collecting all 6 gems. As a result, God King Odin, who was so angry, directly melted the Infinity Gauntlet that had already been cast. In other words, at least at this moment, there is no Infinity Gauntlet in the world that is truly formed and waiting to be used. Li Yi, who knew the truth, felt a little regretful. But then, a flash of light flashed in his mind, but not necessarily. Suddenly remembered a playboy who was dying. Li Yi suddenly smiled mysteriously. If you can't find the Infinity Gauntlet, it seems acceptable to improvise a special version of the Steel Gauntlet. Holding 2 gems, one blue and one green, in his hand. Li Yi's gaze then fixed on another part of the Nine Realms. The reality gem, the so-called ether gem, was actually controlled by another group of individuals? Dark Elf. Advertisement. Li Yi gazed at the starry sky, looking for the direction of the Dark Elves at this moment. Although I don't know where the Dark Elf King hid the gem, but as long as he finds the place where the Dark Elf is, Li Yi is confident enough to find that reality gem. After a while, his eyes fell on the faint sky, a dim star that flickered slightly but seemed to be there. It's really good to hide in such a ghostly place. Li Yi said lightly, and the power of the dark space was released again. Even in World 2, the dark space is still imprisoned, unable to summon the Shadow Army. But now, with his growing influence on the entire universe, the indestructible confinement power has also been visibly shaken. A moment later, Li Yi's figure landed in a desolate and lonely desert. Radiation intense enough to kill ordinary humans radiated from the air. The oxygen content of the air here is extremely low, which is a dead end for humans. Only those dark elves with magical powers can survive in this kind of place. Definitely, at this moment, they are more like sleeping. I thought that the group of dark elves should be hidden in a dark giant ship floating in the deep universe. But what Li Yi didn't expect was that in the current time period, the place where the dark elves were sleeping turned out to be an inconspicuous planet of death. Wake up, Marless. I have something to ask you. Li Yi raised his leg and stomped down hard, a huge wave of air rage, and the violent shockwave was directly transmitted to the depths of the surface at 1.4. Boom. A gigantic ship buried deep here was touched and roared at this moment. In the depths of the giant ship, a middle-aged man wearing elven aristocratic costumes and stern eyes slowly woke up. He opened his eyes, and on his pale face, the blood-colored pupils looked strange and cold. What happened? Why does this dead planet show signs of earthquakes? Malekith frowned, and slowly stood up from the throne. Compared with the glory days of the past, the current Dark Elf group has obviously declined, with few people, and the strength of the entire group is also quietly weakening. In the eyes of Malekith, the culprits of all this are undoubtedly those people from the God Realm who live in Asgard. Damn Bauer and Odin. Malekith, who had personally fought 2 generations of Asgard god kings, cursed angrily. Vented the resentment that had been brewing for thousands of years. Chapter 142. The Elves in the Dark, collect the 3rd infinite gems. One day, the Dark Elves will stand on top of the 9 realms again, and Asgard will be reduced to ruins. Malekith said angrily. As the Dark Elf King, despite his long lifespan, he could only watch his own clan weaken. The scarlet eyes revealed a murderous intent. Compared with the weakness of the ethnic group, what makes him unacceptable is the prosperity of Asgard. Even though Bauer died and Odin entered his twilight years, it seems that there are new gods rising in Asgard today. The young god who holds Mjolnir in his hand shows extraordinary combat power. He even has a brother of his own. For the Dark Elves who have no successors, this is a nightmare, and their waiting will continue endlessly. It's not a big deal, it's nothing more than a short period of prosperity. Malekith frowned and said disapprovingly, with strong irony in his words. As long as the inheritance of TIE particles is still in our hands, the Dark Elves will never be cut off, the ultimate warrior will always guard the group. The Dark Elf King walked slowly inside the giant ship. I plan to use the powerful technology of the Dark Elves to check the situation outside. His style of acting has always been cautious, but when necessary, he is fierce and decisive. The previous sudden shock was the last earthquake erupted by this Death Star when the oil was exhausted and the lights were dry. There are still meteors falling from outside the sky, which caused a shock. Standing in front of the console, Malekith scanned the entire Death Star through the technological means in the giant ship. It's strange. The inner core of this planet has long since died, and it has fallen into a long cold season. There is no energy fluctuation, and there is no trace of the latest meteorite falling on the surface. Malekith frowned, feeling strange. If everything is as usual, where did the obvious shock just now come from? Dark Elf King. Nice title, Malekith. Li Yi's voice sounded calmly inside the giant ship. But in an instant, the king felt a creepy sense of crisis. Advertisement. This giant warship that belongs exclusively to the Dark Elves is already the highest scientific and technological achievement among their group, and it is also the last soil for the entire group to live on. In the previous thousands of years, the entire giant front was completely closed. Even in order to prevent the spread of pheromone, so that the enemy can find the trace. They buried the giant ship deep under the dead planet and slept for thousands of years. At this moment, someone quietly sneaked into the depths of the Dark Elf's giant ship. That's a terrifying risk factor. If he makes a move here, he will have the opportunity to wipe out those sleeping Dark Elf fighters, and the entire group may disappear into the universe without a sound. Who entered the domain of the Dark Elves? Malekith instantly raged like an old lion. With a backhand, he pulled out a sharp sword from his waist. Li Yi's figure slowly appeared, playing with 2 bright gems in his hands. At that moment, the sense of crisis in the Dark Elf King's heart became more and more obvious. Although he didn't know the specific attributes of the 2 infinite gems in Li Yi's hands, he could feel the terrifying aura that was on par with the TIE particles. Obviously, those 2 gemstones are definitely on par with TIE particles. Don't be nervous, the purpose of my coming here is to borrow something from you. As for the sleeping Dark Elves in this fleet, I'm not interested. There seemed to be some ambiguity about their gender, and I couldn't think otherwise. Li Yi said seriously, seeing the fearful look on the face of the Dark Elf King in front of him, he waved his hand. The purpose of my coming here is just to take away something that I accidentally lost, which happened to be obtained by the Dark Elves before. As the former owner, it shouldn't be presumptuous to ask for the property to be returned to the original owner. The Dark Elf King stared at the man in black in front of him, unable to fathom his strength. The man's aura seemed unfathomable, exuding a blazing high temperature like a terrifying dragon. Malekith forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart, and said in a low voice, "What do you want? The Dark Elves have been sleeping here for thousands of years, there is no way there is something you lost." "No, I'm sure that thing must have stayed with you." Li Yi shook his finger. Advertisement 2 infinite gems, 1 blue and 1 green, floated in his hand. "It's such little gadgets, they are called reality gem, definitely according to what you Dark Elves say, they should be called TIE particles." Before the words fell, Malekith's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. TIE particles are the basis for the survival of the entire Dark Elf group, and they are the last resort. The war between the Dark Elves and Asgard in the past. If it wasn't for the last-minute release of the Ultimate Warrior, forcibly stopping Asgard's Iron Cavalry, maybe the Dark Elves were completely destroyed as early as the last Ancient One battle. The Dark Elves, who are now in decline, must not lose TIE particles. For Malekith, this is the most precious treasure in the entire ethnic group. On the body of the huge and burly lizard behemoth, one after another fell asleep Dark Elf warriors. This is destined to be their last sleep. In the giant ship, most of the Dark Elves are still sleeping. As an iron-blooded hero, the Dark Elf King's methods have always been cruel and decisive. A sharp sword in the hands of the Dark Elf King, although it is also a good magic item, it is far inferior to Odin's eternal spear. "Malekith, I will give you one last chance, tell me the location of TIE particles." But when Li Yi asked to take away the TIE particles, Malekith already understood in his heart that today's conflict is inevitable. In other words, once the Dark Elves wake up from their slumber and want to enter a slumber again, the energy supply of the giant ship will no longer be able to keep up. In a blink of an eye, twisted into pieces by sharp claws, Li Yi grabbed the Dark Elf King by the throat, and he stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. The lizard man who also sneaked into the depths of Kuji-en walked slowly. The sharp sword light cannot pierce the tough dragon scales. If there is too much commotion at this time, it may cause those sleeping Dark Elves to wake up again, and the energy stored by the group has been exhausted to a dangerous point. If the man in front of him asks for other things, he can still consider making peace with the matter. Even if he temporarily gives up, he must deal with the current threat. Malekith roared, and the long sword in his hand emitted a dark light at this moment. Under the blessing of magical power, he drew his sword and slashed at the man in front of him. No one can take away the treasures of the Dark Elves, and no one can threaten the king of the Dark Elves. Otherwise, you and your Dark Elves will be buried forever on this planet of death. Chapter 143 Ether Gems, The Destruction of Dark Elves. The words fell. Sandman had already made a move, and the flying sand slowly floated into the air, passed through the nostrils of the Dark Elves, and penetrated into their bodies. The rough sand smashed a Dark Elf's internal organs into pieces in an instant. He died, from a state of deep sleep, completely lost his vitality. Ah! The screams resounded endlessly. In front of the Dark Elf King, one after another executed the few Dark Elf fighters in the giant ship. For Li Yi, such behavior had long been a habit, and it couldn't even move him. But such a scene made Malekith feel infinite pain. The Dark Elves are the last hope in his heart, and every warrior is precious. Corpses were piled up one after another, and the blood of the Dark Elves had already filled the air. The strong smell of blood made the Dark Elf King feel an unprecedented stimulus. He can kill people by any means, because of the slaughter of other races. But when the Dark Elves were bloodbathed, the king still couldn't let go. "Enough, let them go." The Dark Elf King gritted his teeth angrily and said, "I can give you everything you want, the coordinates of TIE particles are in my mind, release all my clansmen, I can give you TIE particles. Otherwise, I would rather commit suicide now, you will never get any news related to TIE particles from a dead man." It looked like he was still tough, but in fact he still seemed to compromise. Li Yi smiled in satisfaction, "Very well, I like people who actively cooperate." Sandman and the Lizard Man slowly put down the Dark Elf warrior in their hands. Immediately afterwards, Malekith had no choice but to tell Li Yi where he buried the TIE particles. Although Malekith's description of TIE particles seems to be similar to Li Yi's impression, but just to be on the safe side, Li Yi directly took the Dark Elf King and lost that special spacetime dimension. The technology of the Dark Elves is very advanced, even better than Asgard at some levels, especially in terms of warfare. That area was specially opened up to preserve TIE particles. This is a devastating weapon of war. He once played a pivotal role in the many wars between the Dark Elves and Asgard. Even in the previous generation of Asgard, the death of God King Bauer was closely related to TIE particles. Standing in front of that weird altar, seeing the crimson TIE particles existing in a free state, Li Yi nodded with satisfaction. The third infinite gems is in hand. However, this moment, the bound Dark Elf King exerted all his strength and broke free from the shackles of the Lizard Man and Sandman. The ancient king still harbored the idea of making a last-ditch effort. He absolutely does not want to let the most important treasure of the clan be lost, not to mention that there are two other gems in Li Yi's hands. Advertisement: if TIE particles can keep the Dark Elf clan going, then add another 2 gems. Under the power of the 3 infinite gems, the Dark Elves will stand on the top of the 9 realms again and drive out the bastards of Asgard. Malekith rushed over and jumped onto the altar with one step. He reached out and grabbed TIE particles. In the past, only carefully selected fighters among the Dark Elves would use TIE particles. In this way, strengthening yourself, becoming a war. But at this moment, the Dark Elf King had no choice but to use himself as the carrier. In fact, his physical fitness is extremely rare among Dark Elves. Therefore, after the increase of TIE particles, it will have a more terrifying power zone. Boom! The pale face was instantly covered with blood-red lines, and the body of the Dark Elf King suddenly swelled up, turning into a huge titan, with bony horns growing from every joint of the body, ferocious and terrifying. Seeing such a terrifying change, Sandman and the lizard monster showed shock on their faces. This momentum is undoubtedly 100 times stronger than theirs. They never expected that Malekith would become so strong in an instant, and then, Li Yi, his master, might encounter some troubles. This opponent is stronger than they have ever seen before. They guessed that even Li Yi might have some troubles, right? Think here. To avoid affecting them, the two stepped back one by one, quietly watching the beginning of the battle. Damn B*****************, D. You have to pay for what you did just now. Malekith let out an angry roar. He turned his head slowly, and stared at Ji Yi angrily. Seeing the power of the Dark Elf King suddenly go berserk, Li Yi nodded calmly. I have to say that the effect of Reality Gem is quite considerable. He intends to experiment with the power transfer of infinite gems. For example, no longer relying on the Infinity Gauntlet, but directly embedding gems into the flesh and blood body, so as to control the power of the gems. But to achieve this level, the physical strength of the experimental body must be strong to a certain level. At least most ordinary people can do it. And now, the Dark Elf King has undoubtedly made a good start for himself. Malekith didn't know what was going on in Li Yi's mind. After integrating the TIE particles into his body, he already felt an incomparably terrifying power enough to surpass the previous peak. This is unprecedented divine power, extremely powerful and suffocating. Definitely, at the same time, the Dark Elf King can also feel that his body will reach its limit anytime and anywhere. A terrible phenomenon of internal collapse is taking place. If you can't defeat your opponent in time and take out the TIE particles, maybe your body will collapse under that overpowering force. Advertisement. Damn B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** altar. But the next moment, he was instantly overturned by an even greater force. Who gave you the guts to wrestle with a dragon? In an instant, the transformed GE growled. The huge body is more than half taller than the Dark Elf King. In his eyes, this Dark Elf who forcibly uses TIE particles is just a child who hasn't grown up yet. 2 gems against 1 gem. Who gave him the guts? What's more, Li Yi, who has revived the blood of the dragon and mastered the template of the Holy Lord, has ridiculously high basic attributes. Under Maneki's extremely astonished expression, his indestructible Dark Elf body was forcibly torn apart by his opponent. The physique of the Ultimate Warrior was like paper in front of that man. He tore the Dark Elf King into pieces. If you were lucky enough to enter the Soul Castle after you die, presumably your old friend Odin will welcome you there. Holding the 3 infinite gems in the palm of his hand, Li Yi raised his head to the sky and let out a deafening dragon roar. This is especially true for the Dark Elves, all of them are pale and desperate. On the altar, only the head of the Dark Elf King is still alive, and the powerful vitality is vividly displayed on him, even though it is a dying candle in the wind. They felt that their worries just now were completely unnecessary, and their master was simply invincible. Li Yi panted heavily, exuding a tyrannical aura that seemed to be absent from his body, and reached out to pick up the shining, gem-shaped TIE particles in the pile of meat. At this moment, the Dark Elf King felt extremely resentful in his heart. Master, with the good news that Asgard has also fallen. They fled in a hurry one by one. Seeing this scene, Lizard and Sandman were stunned. Scary, this man is too scary. Just now they thought that their powerful king would be able to fight against this man, or be able to kill him in seconds, but they never thought that the person who was killed in seconds would be their Zhao Hao king. The last king of the Dark Elves slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, they feel that they have followed their master for so long, and they still don't know anything about his powerful strength. For a while, they have doubts about life. The 3 gems danced slowly in his palm, shining brilliantly. He lowered his head with cold and tyrannical eyes, looked at the Dark Elf King who was about to die at any time, and said with a sneer, "By the way, I'll tell you some good news. I've already been to Asgard before I came to look for you again." Suddenly relieved. Chapter 144 The Belonging of Mind Gem, The Last Chance for Iron Man. 3 gems. 3 infinite gems of different colors are shining brightly in Li Yi's hands, shining brilliantly. These are the infinite gems that represent the 6 mighty forces of the entire universe. But at this moment, half of them have already fallen into Li Yi's ministers. Time, space, and reality. Originally, Li Yi expected that the gem representing the soul should be with Loki. However, apart from the Tesseract, there was no trace of other gems on the body of the deceitful god. The god of deceit, the magical means that powers its own illusions, seems to be supported by other substances and Mind Gem. In that case, where will Mind Gem appear? In Li Yi's mind, many possibilities appeared. In his impression, the ownership of Mind Gem has always been very clear. That brilliant gem has been embedded in the scepter of Loki, the god of deceit, for a long time. No, maybe the person who owns the Mind Gem is not necessarily Loki. Li Yi suddenly turned around and looked at a distant star. There is a playboy there, with peerless beauty and amazing talent. According to the normal timeline, he will accomplish a feat in the near future, and the ultimate mechanical life form will be born from his hands. An intelligent mechanical creature with self-awareness, 453 also has the qualifications to control Mind Gem. It seems that I also underestimated the Shield Gang. Li Yi smiled calmly. He already knew in whose hands the Mind Gem was now, but he was not in a hurry to find that man right now. After all, under his unceremonious verbal humiliation in the previous paragraph, that extremely conceited man must have a strong ambition and devote all his efforts to a powerful planetary defense plan. At that time, maybe the things you are looking forward to will be shown in advance. Forget it, I'll give you another chance, Tony, don't let me down again. There are 3 infinite gems gathered in his hands at this moment. In addition to the Mind Gem, the 2 remaining gems are the Power Gem and the Soul Gem. For the latter, even Li Yi has no good solution. Only by sacrificing your loved ones can you get Soul Gem. And who in this world can have the love of a demon, unless there is a woman who really likes his G ability and can withstand his love of 100,000 volts? It seems that we still need to find someone to help. Advertisement in Li Yi's brain. CBEHC, once again emerged a soft and charming female agent. The story that happened in the presidential suite left him with endless aftertaste. Just after he released his ability, he also needed to release something to relax himself. Natasha Romanoff of World 2 seems to be more proficient in physical skills, and can always play some unexpected tricks. Definitely these amazing poses on display. He also made it in the same way and used it on Hela, the goddess of death in Asgard, which gave him a lot of pleasure. As a god, Hela's body is tough enough to withstand violent twisting. Certain unique poses, even better than Natasha Romanoff. Could it be possible to let Hawkeye look for the so-called Soul Gem as before? For this bad practice, Li Yi has no rejection in his heart. Compared with the glamorous agent's soft body, it is still Soul Gem, which makes me appreciate it more. Forget it, let's talk about it when we go back. The purpose now is to retrieve the Liwang Gem. Today's Power Gem does not circulate in the universe. On the contrary, for some reason, that gem is kept in the hands of a member of the Celestial Group who is famous in the universe. Great Collector. That is definitely a strong man, with terrifying strength, and the many collections accumulated over the long years also contain destructive powers that ordinary people can't imagine. Although those superheroes from S.H.I.E.L.D. seem to need only a few people to disturb this collector, but only Li Yi knows that the member of the Celestial Group is not so easy to deal with. The long years have allowed him to master unimaginable power and contacts. If you act rashly, it may cause a counterattack from the big collector, or even encirclement and suppression among members of the godless group. Li Yi lowered his head and thought for a moment, his eyes turned from hesitation to firmness. It's numb. When did I have to be so submissive in everything I do, looking forward and backward? A fierce light flashed in Li Yi's heart. Although he has always been a person who makes decisions before acting, but with the recovery of the dragon's blood, a cold and strong will is also awakened in his body. The descendants of the dragon need no hesitation, no need or timidity. They are destined to be strong, possessing powers that ordinary people cannot match. Even if there is a big problem, put it in front of yourself. Advertisement. But as dragon blood resuscitators, they will stretch out their fists stronger than the sky to crush all difficulties. Great Collector. Li Yi gritted his teeth slightly, his gaze became a little dangerous. At this moment, he has already begun to look forward to what kind of astonishing movement he can cause when he releases all his abilities in the universe and strikes hard. Definitely before setting off to the depths of the universe, looking for the Great Collector. A little plan before some action. Also start preparations. Li Yi's gaze immediately turned to the 2 capable men who followed behind him. Sandman and Lizardman, in New York, their ability is extremely impressive. One can turn into quicksand, gather and disperse invisible, and hardly receive any physical damage, while the other is infinitely powerful, thick-skinned. Even in the face of a hail of bullets, it can calmly retreat. However, in the universe, the strength of these 2 subordinates is not so impressive. Sandman is fine, after all, the characteristic of turning into quicksand is enough for him to deal with most dangers. However, the Lizardman's situation seemed extremely embarrassing. In the universe, it can only be regarded as a relatively ordinary race. Those ancient planets with powerful sauropod creatures also have powerful lizard tribes. Even those lizard people have more powerful means, may be proficient in some basic magic. Standing on the ancient altar of the Dark Elves, looking at the dead Dark Elf King under his feet. However, a new thought had already appeared in Li Yi's heart. Since the Dark Elves can use TIE particles to create the ultimate warrior, then they can also use the 3 infinite gems in their hands to transform the 2 right-hand men. He turned around calmly, watching Sandman and the Lizardman. The latter looked at him respectfully, totally dog-like. Li Yi nodded in satisfaction, and said in a deep voice, Sandman, Lizardman, you should have discovered after following me all the way, and now your strength has become an obvious shortcoming. If you still want to continue to follow me, then you must make changes. As a gift, accept the calendar I bestow on you. The voice did not fall. Red, green and blue lights burst out from Li Yi's hands and shone on Sandman and the Lizardman. Seeing this, Sandman and the Lizardman immediately knelt down and received everything reverently. Chapter 145 Infernal Sandman, Ether Lizard, Infinite Gems Strengthening Technology. Just the next moment, the 2 screamed ferociously. The powerful power contained in infinite gems made these two supervillains who had been rampant in New York in an instant. Feeling the torture like death, the lizard body is huge, but the recovery ability of its own body is extraordinary. Therefore, under the fierce gem light, although he felt extremely painful, he could barely hold on. On the contrary, Sandman obviously felt powerless under the impact of this extremely terrifying force. The deserted body can't stop the power that destroys everything. His mind was like a slideshow, flashing through his life in a hurry. The Sandman's body has obvious cracks, as if it will be completely torn apart in the next moment. Seeing this, Li Yi didn't intend to make a move. He could give power to his two subordinates, but whether they could catch it was their business. If the two subordinates are too powerful, they will explode and die in the end. That can only be considered their blessing, not qualified to be own subordinate. It's just that Sandman, whose body was about to be broken, strangely maintained the situation of being about to be broken, and the obsession in his heart constantly emerged, turning into a frenzy. In the past, he accompanied his daughter bit by bit to become the most solid memory. Even though all thoughts have been destroyed, these short but warm pictures still linger in his heart. Daughter. Although this murderer is innocent and full of crimes, he still loves his daughter's father deeply. In fact, I don't know the soul of the little girl. As early as a few days ago, he was crushed into fly ash by Li Yi. No, I will not die. I will become stronger. I will definitely persist until the day I see my daughter. This world is so mysterious. There are countless gods, and there are more advanced technology and power. Heaven and hell, maybe they really exist. One day I will go to heaven myself, and bring back my daughter's soul from the hands of God. Sandman's facial features overflowed with blue light. Under the impact of the power of the space gem, he seemed to be shattered at any moment. But with an astonishing amount of willpower, he eventually absorbs a portion of the space gem's power. Just a small part. For this space gem, which represents the 6 infinite rules of the universe, that trace of power seems insignificant, even insignificant, but the same trace of power has opened a different door for Sandman. His body is turning into sand. Unlike before, it turned into fine yellow sand. The flying sand particles formed by his body at this moment are crystal clear, like diamonds. If you put them under a microscope, you can even see complete and shining cross-sections one after another, like the most brilliant diamonds. Advertisement: this is the power of the space gem, giving Sandman the ability to become space grit. From this moment on, he got rid of the incarnation of quicksand, and the weakness of fearing the water source became stronger and stronger. And the body after turning into space gravel can also withstand most of the magic attacks. Unless it's Sorcerer Supreme or Chaos Witch level top magic. Otherwise, the power of the ordinary magician will no longer be able to cause real damage to this Sandman. Have I become stronger? Feeling the changes in his body, Sandman felt incredible. He felt that he had become more than 10 times stronger. He was very excited to start the demonstration. Everything is empty, it is nothing. From today, your name is Wujian Sandman. Li Yi looked at the completely reborn Sandman with satisfaction. This sturdy man has changed a lot at this moment, and his temperament even exudes a trace of mystery. There is a layer of fine dust outside the burly body, quietly suspended, shining with dazzling light. This is the grit that integrates space power, capable of truly killing people with the invisible. Not only is the material tougher, but it also has amazing magic resistance. If the current Sandman returns to New York again, with his own power, he can fight many superheroes in S.H.I.E.L.D. Thank you, Master. Sandman became more respectful towards Li Yi and saluted him immediately. And at this moment, the lizard man surrounded by red light also let out a deafening roar. He also survived, and one after another reverse-growing bone spurs appeared on his body, looking hideous and terrifying. The originally strong and burly body grew again, reaching a height of nearly 10 meters. Huge amounts of lizard's tail, sweeping slowly, set off gusts of wind. The next moment, the lizard man, which had completely evolved into a colossus, dissipated in an instant, turned into particles, and hid in the air. He embraced the power of TIE particles and became a magnet in his ultimate form. Even the stimulating effect of TIE particles on the body has reached the acme on the lizard man. Asking for flowers. Not only can he have an extremely powerful body, he can fight in hand-to-hand combat. In many cases, it can also take the form of TIE particles and quickly escape from the space. Advertisement: this is the ability of Reality Gem, the transformation between virtual and real. A reality gem in gem form. If they become free bodies, they are TIE particles in the eyes of dark elves. Looking at the lizard man who gave his real body again, he nodded. Ether Lizard. He made up a name at will, and gave it to the lizard man as his real name. This gigantic troll appears reckless and crude, but in fact, when he was in human form, his intelligence was not low at all, and he was able to research a unique product close to the serum of a super soldier from the serum of a lizard. The predecessor of this lizard man was also an amazing scientist. But in front of Li Yi, he is willing to offer his loyalty extremely respectfully. I have to say, this is the real wisdom and foolishness. It is the safest choice to judge through direct experience in the face of danger. At this moment, after completing the strengthening of the two subordinates, Li Yi smiled with satisfaction. Both Sandman and Lizardman have made great progress. Today, they have accepted the baptism of the power of infinite gems, and become more and more powerful. Even if they are rampant in the universe, they can still make a name for themselves. After making sufficient preparations, Li Yi's eyes slowly fell to the depths of the universe. Big Collector. Tenjin Group. He smiled coldly, with a dangerous smile, and disappeared from this strange space constructed by the Dark Elves. With the loss of type particles, this altar specially built by the Dark Elves also lost its most important support and slowly collapsed. At the same time, the corpse of the Dark Elf King Malekith was also buried. The king of the Dark Elves who once competed with the God King of Asgard on the Nine Realms. In the end, he was buried in such an inconspicuous space. No one knows. Those Dark Elves sleeping in the giant ship didn't realize that their king had already left them. Even in their deep sleep, when no one wakes them up, they can only helplessly wait for the energy of the giant ship to run out, and finally with the passage of time. Among the desolate and dead stars, among the dry skeletons. Chapter 146 Collector's Power Gem. The God Group avoids the battle. The ultimate command, kill Li Yi. In fact, even Li Yi didn't think of it. The process of recovering the Power Gem from the Great Collector turned out to be so smooth. But, Great Collector, where's the man? When he came aggressively to the Great Collector's all-inclusive space museum, the member of the Celestial Group was not in his own museum. The arrival of Infernal Sandman and Ether Lizard directly destroyed the defense system of the museum. Under the power of 3 infinite gems, the entire museum was destroyed, shattered, and reduced to ruins. Tenjin Group. Li Yi stands among the ruins, looking at the completely broken museum. Disappointing. He sighed in a low voice, his eyes flickering with terrifying prestige. I planned to use this opportunity to weigh the strength of the members of the Celestial Group. Unfortunately, it still didn't happen. The entire 377 museum was distorted by Li Yi's divine power and turned into ruins. The many treasures treasured in it also flowed into the starry universe. Who knows how many civilizations in the starry universe will benefit or be destroyed? Li Yi doesn't care about that, his gaze, looking somewhere in the ancient museum. The terrifying dragon flame destroyed the world, pierced through the void, and shattered a crystal cabinet protected by magic. Power gems then emerge. At this moment, along with 4 infinite gems, it fell into Ji Yi's hands. The whole universe seems to feel threatened. In the starry sky, a shining ray of light returned from outer space and fell towards the beautiful New York. Amidst the gorgeous streamer, a heroic short-haired woman suddenly turned her head. Amber's eyes were full of doubts and vigilance. What happened in the universe? Why does it make me feel alarmed and feel huge amounts of worry? At the same time, other life forms in the galaxy of the universe seem to be aware of it. In the dark, I feel a huge amounts of threat, which is quietly brewing. It will sweep across the whole world at any time, bringing a deadly threat to all creatures. Advertisement at the same time, several figures also walked out of the Great Collector's treasury slowly. Li Yi finally gave up the idea of finding the soul gem for the time being. With the 2 followers behind him, it is obviously impossible to obtain the soul gem through sacrifice. If you want to grab it by force, it seems that it is not easy to pay back. Forget it, let's go back and have a look. After waiting for so many days, there must be some surprises. Chen Yi is also very much looking forward to Shield's superhero combat power once again. Just as he wanted to gather 6 infinite gems, before a certain purple sweet potato spirit snapped his fingers. First do a census in this universe. There is also a deeper thought, that is to find 6 supervillains who are powerful enough in this world to form their own infinite apostles. Every subordinate will have the power of an infinite gems. Therefore, 6 suitable apostles must also be screened. The brilliant light, starting from the depths of the Milky Way, quickly flocks to a distant planet. In front of Li Yi who owns the space gem, the infinite interstellar distance is just a blink of an eye, and now he doesn't even need to rely on any power to wander in the entire universe calmly. Go anywhere that comes to mind. Stark Industrial Building. A playboy who had recovered from his injuries and was discharged from the hospital was sitting in front of the computer with full concentration. The supercomputer on the side is running at full capacity. At this moment, he is making the greatest creation of time, representing the ultimate mechanical power. JARVIS, I will use you as a blueprint to create a more powerful artificial intelligence individual. Stark said a little madly, his eyes flickering with madness. Ever since he was ridiculed in public, he has always been suffocating in his heart. He not only wants to prove himself, but also fights back fiercely to that man, use the power of Iron Man to put thick armor on the whole world. The pinnacle of artificial intelligence is the brain of God. Human thinking is limited after all. Only the artificial intelligence developed to the peak can start from the overall level, improve countless details, and correct mistakes. Stark muttered to himself, looking wild. He actually had the idea of creating a real artificial intelligence very early on. It's a pity that it is always limited by other factors and cannot succeed. But this time the creation of the ultimate artificial intelligence was unexpectedly smooth. Not only S.H.I.E.L.D. but also other special secret departments of Magian are providing all kinds of overt and covert help to Stark Industry. Advertisement many rare and mysterious metals, including vibranium, Stark has successfully obtained in a short period of time. Without the secret permission of those forces, such a thing would be almost impossible to happen. So when all the factors are assembled in a very tacit way, quickly, represents the highest crystallization of Tony Stark's wisdom. The ultimate artificial intelligence will also be born. Carefully place a gem that emits brilliance in the chest slot of the humanoid mechanical body in front of him. The huge energy penetrates the robot's body in an instant. Wake up, my child. Stark muttered to himself, with a frenzied expression, watching the artificial intelligence machine in front of him slowly sit up from the experimental table. His expression became even more excited. From now on, your name is Ultron, Stark said firmly. Originally in Stark's prediction, the ultimate order he set for Ultron was to protect all mankind. The pinnacle of artificial intelligence. This is the name he has already prepared for this artificial intelligence machine in his heart. Any existence that is perceived, its own weaknesses will be seen by Ultron 0.9. The scene of humiliation that I had experienced in my heart kept reappearing in my mind like a slideshow. Enter the final core instructions for the ultimate artificial intelligence that is about to be truly opened. Defeat Li Yi. At the last moment, he input the final ultimate command to Ultron's artificial intelligence processing core. In the end, his slightly trembling fingers became firm. No matter how powerful a person with a special ability is, it is impossible to have no weaknesses. Since humans cannot recognize them, they can be realized through supercomputers. Tony Stark's movements are obviously a little hesitation, his eyes are flickering, and he is making a crazy choice in a sudden thought. All the wisdom of this young playboy and genius scientist is entrusted. He moved quickly, beginning the final preparations for Ultron's birth. Stark gritted his teeth and said, looking at the ultimate intelligent life form that was slowly being activated. The power of Mind Gem is enough to see everything in an instant. But when he actually got to the transfer order, definitely in Tony Stark's mind, this will also be the deadliest weapon he uses against GE. Chapter 147 Mind Ultron. Captain Marvel is here. Summon the Moonlight Knight of the Gods. At the same time, S.H.I.E.L.D. also welcomed an important guest. A tall, round-faced woman walked in, wearing a special combat uniform. The moment she appeared, many superheroes gathered in S.H.I.E.L.D. felt a heavy pressure from the inside out. This woman is powerful, very powerful. From the inside out, the whole body exudes a terrifying aura, like a superpowered engine that will never go out. Compared with a certain superhero captain who holds a shield and is named after a beautiful tip. This woman is also a very famous superhero captain. Even his name spread beyond the universe. The scope of her protection is also wider than that of superheroes like them. Even some high-level races have heard of this woman's illustrious reputation. Introduced to everyone, this is an elder of S.H.I.E.L.D. and your companion. Captain Marvel. Director Nick took the initiative to introduce, with a hint of reluctance on his face. The experience of communicating with this woman ended when I was young. Time flies, and decades have passed in the blink of an eye. I am almost retiring, but this Captain Marvel still maintains a youthful appearance. 21 definitely for such a special superhero, the appearance and body cannot be used to describe their real age in the future. However, Director Nick still recognizes the strength of this Captain Marvel. Looking at the scarred appearances of many superheroes in S.H.I.E.L.D., Captain Marvel frowned slightly. What a difficult opponent you have met to make you so embarrassed, didn't all of you take him down? She said calmly, but her indifferent tone aroused some people's resentment. In the face of this veteran-level superhero lecture, general heroes are savvy. However, some young people who have not been out of the society and have not experienced severe beatings refuted her ignorantly. You haven't met any guy, so naturally you don't know how terrifying that man is, so please don't make sarcastic remarks here. How many times have we fought that man to protect this city? Little Spider-Man said a little indignantly. Although his injuries were minor, he has even recovered now. But what made him unacceptable was that he was naked and tied to a tree with a cobweb. Advertisement as a majestic Spider-Man, it was undoubtedly a great insult to be defeated by that man in such a way. However, seeing the unconvinced look on the little Spider-Man's face, Captain Marvel smiled calmly. She stretched out her hand and clenched her fist slightly. An incomparably majestic energy rose from her hand. Boom! In an instant, the walls of the S.H.I.E.L.D. conference building were smashed to pieces. Even the straight airwaves in the void stretched for thousands of miles, and it was an understatement to create such a frightening momentum. Omega! Little Spider-Man was taken aback on the spot, and Cobweb was spraying in panic. The other superheroes couldn't help but have their pupils dilated, and they became unrestrained, because the superhero's aura in front of them was too high and too dazzling, so that they all became obedient. They knew their own strength, and it was really not enough for this Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel shook his head calmly. Little guy, although I don't know how powerful the enemy you are facing. But you don't seem to realize how strong I am, Captain Marvel said with great confidence. Across the universe, protecting countless races, she has fought fiercely with many conquerors. For her, these superheroes in the Nervous Bureau can only be regarded as green and young boys. Not only is his strength limited, but he has never seen the great scenery in the universe, and he doesn't understand the heights of the sky and the depth of the earth. The opponents who can make them fearful may be stronger, but for me, it is just to deal with 10 small troubles. By the way, Nick, where's the cat? Captain Marvel looked at the surrounding environment, turned his head, and said to Director Nick. On this trip, the reason why she returned quickly after receiving the communicator was, on the one hand, to carry out the protection of Ren Luo as soon as possible. On the other hand, I also want to meet that little Yuan Devourer whom I haven't seen for a long time. The race of that little guy is indeed unusual, and he can be considered an extremely dangerous horror creature in the universe, but it is precisely because he has dealt with that little guy that Captain Marvel, who loves cats by nature, never forgets it. Boom! Suddenly, an unimaginable spiritual force came from another huge building outside S.H.I.E.L.D. Captain Marvel's complexion changes rapidly, she felt a palpable threat. The existence that exudes strong spiritual fluctuations undoubtedly has the strength to surpass this planet. Advertisement, Nick, over the years, your work has become more and more regressive. Didn't S.H.I.E.L.D. find out that there is still such a person hiding in your vicinity? Captain Marvel frowned and said, The next moment, the sound of a sonic boom came from the void. A tall robot descends to shield with Stark in a steel battlesuit. "Guys, it's time for us to fight back," Stark said in a deep voice, his face full of fanaticism. "The speed of Ultron's evolution is far beyond my imagination." After coming into contact with Mind Gem, the evolution level of this artificial intelligence machine soared instantly, and in just a few seconds, it spread through the network and penetrated the entire human knowledge base. Through a higher level of mechanical transformation technology, after updating its own body, Ultron already has a powerful combat power that surpasses Stark. Stark, who was wearing the crimson battle armor, patted the tall robot beside him proudly. "This will be our trump card. When that man reappears, I will definitely let him understand what it means to be deeply regretful." Captain Marvel looked at Ultron cautiously. Although the body of this robot 030 does not look so strong, the mind gem embedded in the chest exudes extremely powerful power. With the support of the power of gemstones, the strength of this robot may be very terrifying. Dr. Bruce Banner, who was on the side, said softly, "I am very confident in the strength of the two, but some time ago, I also contacted a friend I met during the parade. He is also willing to give his own strength to fight against that man and protect the world." "Another superhero? Don't care. With Ultron, we can complete the entire planetary defense plan and defeat or even kill the man," Tony Stark said with incomparable confidence. As a creator, he is well aware of the terrifying potential of this artificial intelligence that has begun to evolve by itself. If it weren't for the shackles of the ultimate command, maybe this robot would become a big trouble to the whole world. Regarding Tony's disdainful remarks, Bruce Banner calmly shook his head. "Indeed, that friend is also a superhero with a special ability. However, what I value more is the other ability he possesses." Such human elites who are constantly communicating with the Green Titan consciousness in their bodies, trying to reach a cooperation agreement, said slowly at this moment. "That friend seems to have the power to communicate with the gods. His name is Moonlight Knight." Chapter 148 Shield armed to the teeth. Old friends return, meet Captain Marvel. Beyond the stars. Li Yi's figure appeared on the surface of the blue planet, surrounded by 4 bright gems like shooting stars, releasing terrifying energy under the blessing of the power of the Holy Lord. With the recovery of the blood of the dragon now completed, fully awakening Li Yi in the body of the Holy Spirit. Comparable to the physical strength of a god, it can even forcibly carry the power of 6 infinite gems. Feeling the high-intensity energy fluctuations remaining in the void, a mysterious smile flashed in Li Yi's eyes. Unexpectedly, did she come too? In the invisible, in the huge dragon body, the restless blood that had just been calmed down can surge again. Although I don't know whether the seeds I have stored in Asgard, the goddess of death Hela, have successfully germinated, but at this moment Li Yi has a more admirable goal. Boom. 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 Beyond the pure white clouds. A blazing meteor slid down from the sky, heroic and magnificent, exuding an aura of destruction. 3 figures landed with a crash, with further control over staying power. The seamless Sandman and the Ether Lizard have also become more and more adapted to that extremely powerful force zone. This is the ultimate super soldier, the so-called beast serum is too ordinary. The Lizard Man muttered to himself, and even questioned his decades of research work. A semi-finished product imitating the serum of a super soldier, turning itself into a half-human, half-lizard, half-human, half-ghost monster. However, in front of this extremely powerful and extremely evil master. But the Lizard Man has once again realized metamorphosis. It has mastered the power of ether, and can even restore its human form through the reorganization between particles. Although the mouth has always been disdainful of the previously weak human body. But when it is really possible to return to a human being, the kind of heartfelt excitement still makes the Lizard Man unable to extricate himself. Sandman's mood, too. After seeing the real high-latitude power, the possibility of resurrecting his daughter in his heart is also growing rapidly. 6 gems, 2 gems short, enough to make up the power to rule the universe. By the way, there is also a glove, advertisement. I will definitely find them. Sandman's gaze was extremely firm. At this moment, he was willing to become the sharpest blade in Li Yi's hands, tearing apart all obstacles in front of him for this strong man. Come on, go to S.H.I.E.L.D. and see those old friends. I haven't seen you these days, you should blame me. Li Yi smiled calmly. The figure of the newly broken space descended outside the S.H.I.E.L.D. building. In the buildings inside S.H.I.E.L.D., powerful auras are exuding at this moment. Compared with the superheroes gathered here in the past. This time, the people who gathered here became stronger and more numerous. Everyone, your old friends are here to see you. Li Yi stood in the sky, staring at the fortified steel building. Immediately afterwards, several figures rushed out of the building driving the flight controller. Once again, the captain grips the brand new vibranium shield. With the full technical support of another captain in Stark Industries. They reforged the shield that had been kneaded into iron by Li Yi, and added a higher technological power zone. At the same time, even the captain wore a red-gold nano battlesuit carefully crafted by Stark. Superhero. Captain Iron. This is an unprecedented all-round collaboration between 2 people. It was also the first time in Stark's history that he let go of all preconceptions in his heart and went all out to help the captain upgrade his own equipment. A burly monster with dark green skin. Stepping on another flight machine, Amber's night eyes contained an extremely tyrannical aura, but at the same time shone with calm and intelligent light. With the efforts of the doctor, the Green Titan in his body finally cooperated with him. At this moment they have reached the strongest form in their lives. Green Dr. Titan. A figure rushed to the front, with a powerful battlesuit from alien technology attached to his body. Surprisingly, she also wears a helmet shaped like an ancient Roman warrior on her head. Put your hair up high, like a crown shell falling on the top of your head. Seeing Li Yi after Captain Marvel, he frowned. Advertisement. My assessment is, not as good as Gila, not even Natasha Romanoff. He said lightly, his raging eyes sized up Captain Marvel, full of aggression, as if everything about this captain would be exposed under the eyes of the dragon. Outsiders, leave here and disappear from this universe. Captain Marvel has received news related to Li Yi from other members. Find out that this crazy man even set off a horrific massacre against countless underground members in New York. Even after killing an innocent female magician who lived in seclusion in London because of this, her disgust towards Li Yi was already extremely strong. Such a scumbag should not live in this world. Since he descended from another world, so where did it come from? Go back to where? Facing Captain Marvel's unceremonious expulsion, the smile on Li Yi's face became more and more obvious, and his eyes fell behind everyone. Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff also followed closely. Although among these superheroes, their methods are relatively single. You can analyze the opponent's various values in a very short time, so as to formulate targeted restraint battles. At this moment, he stared at Li Yi closely. Li Yi still decided to use Black Widow and Hawkeye as experimental subjects. A mechanical eye that can release high-intensity electronic lasers. Behind him was a cloak. Although asked by Soul Gem, it is just to sacrifice one's true love. After all, it is up to the two of them to find the Soul Gem stored on another planet. But in the eyes of Li Yi today, these two people are the most important existence. Even if the entire shield is destroyed because of this, there can be no accidents between the two of them. Many superheroes wear a special device in the shape of a monocle, which is a derivative of Ultron. Before the actual fight, Ultron had already started to collect data on the various information Li Yi distributed. But for careful consideration, and with the help of some super artificial intelligence, the equipment on them has also undergone substantial adjustments, which are more suitable for their own abilities. A tall metal robot came from the distant direction of the Stark Industrial Building. At this moment, more and more superheroes are gathered, and Spider-Man and others, such as Qian Zhao's Parker, are also ready to go. Under the treatment of powerful technology, their injuries have all healed. With a deafening roar. Boom. Chapter 149. Coveted by the gods, Avengers, assemble against the Lord Li Yi. On the chest, the Bright Mind Gem shines brightly. Unleash boundless spiritual power, Ultron with Mind Gem. Even more powerful than the artificial intelligence in Li Yi's impression. Definitely. At this moment, Ultron was modified by Stark because of the core ultimate command. The only thing he wanted to do was to defeat Li Yi and kill this man from all aspects. There is no place to find when you break through the iron shoes, and it takes no effort to get it. Yes, this is the real toy. Li Yi smiled with satisfaction, and 4 equally shining gems appeared beside him. Terrifying power raged from him, speaking insolently. What? Toys? You are too arrogant. Hearing this, Stark's teeth were about to bleed from his teeth. The killing machine that he worked so hard to develop, you call it a toy? He still doesn't know what to do. It seems that I have to explode him in place to get rid of the hatred in my heart. Well, he's going to have to make Ultron blast Li Yi's flowers hard. Everyone, I know what you mean. Come on, let's do it. Let me feel the joy of fighting. After all, you were so weak and pitiful that I couldn't bear to fight hard. Only, before he could open his mouth, Li Yi launched an invitation to fight with them. That's right, he asked them to go together instead of naming someone. Hateful. The unceremonious mockery and sarcasm towards 313 Li Yi. At this moment, all the superheroes quickly started to counterattack. No one dares to offend so many superhumans at once, not even the gods. Suddenly, a muffled voice sounded slowly. In midair, a cloaked monster covered in bandages attacked Li Yi from the other side of the shield building. It was the Moonlight Knight who was invited by the Green Titan earlier. He was originally a superhero who was active in Cairo, and he didn't have much relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D. The reason why he was willing to come here was also because of Dr. Bruce's warm invitation. Advertisement, however, after seeing the 4 floating gems beside Li Yi, the voices from the gods kept ringing in Moonlight Knight's mind. Shoot quickly, kill him, and get those few gems at all costs. Even get the one on that robot. The voice of the god Kong Si seemed extremely excited, almost trembling. At this time, even the artifact of the moon god, which he had been searching for thousands of years, could no longer arouse any interest from the moon god. Not even gods can control themselves in the face of the temptation brought by infinite gems. Get it, gotta get it, have control of these gems, and we shall have it all. Kong Si was so excited that he even felt an unexpected opportunity appearing in front of him. If you can control these 5 infinite gems that represent the universe, even the gods of Cairo, what is it in front of you? The dead crocodile wandering in the river of the underworld has been fighting openly and secretly for so many years. But no matter how powerful the divine power is in front of infinite gems, it has no effect. Even gods will die. Kill him, you can get whatever you want. Even you can replace me and become the new moon god, not the entire Shendu of Cairo will be under your rule, you will become the supreme god king of the Cairo god court. Regarding Kong Si's incomparably excited emotions, Moonlight Knight was also a little shaken. His righteous heart is not as pure as other heroes, and it is mixed with his own interests. If it is true that more benefits can be obtained through this operation, he can go all out. The crescent moon flying darts whizzed towards them, condensing the power of the moon god. They were quite good magic weapons, and they were extremely numerous. As long as it is in the place where the moonlight shines, it will be endless. But it's a pity that in front of Li Yi, this level of magic attack still looks inferior. He doesn't need to do it. The etheric lizard has stepped forward. The surface of the scales, which had already metamorphosed into dark red, shone with the deep light of TIE particles, and all the crescent moon flying darts were distorted by the power of TIE particles in an instant. The huge lizard man roared and lay down on the opposite side. The ironized captain, the Moonlight Knight who just joined S.H.I.E.L.D., the little Spider-Man who has fought many times, and a Green Dr. Titan who was ready to show Seebeck his fighting form. Compared with the previous situation of being passively beaten, this time the Ether Lizard has an infinite fanatical fighting spirit in his heart, and absolute self-confidence. In front of his greatly increased strength, even these superheroes cannot compete with him. Die, you bloody reptile, advertisement ferocious big feet, constantly trampled on. In an instant, Spider-Man's extremely flexible cobwebs were torn off. He was attacking crazily. No matter how fast and fierce the attacks hit him, he couldn't cause real damage to himself, and Wujian Sandman who was on the side also quickly fought with his opponents. The number of opponents he fought was even greater. Black Widow, Hawkeye, Falcon Warrior, Winter Soldier, Iron Man Stark. There are even some magicians from the three holy places, determined to avenge the previous Supreme Teacher, Ms. Ancient One. This time, S.H.I.E.L.D. is almost in full force. They understand very well that perhaps this battle will be the last chance for S.H.I.E.L.D. and other superheroes. That man's strength is too terrifying, and a single superhero can't compete with it at all. Therefore, only by gathering all the strength of all superheroes can we fight this man to the death. Captain Steel, who was struggling to fight against the Ether Lizard, showed a look of determination. We had a similar idea a long time ago. To establish a special organization in S.H.I.E.L.D., many powerful people with various abilities will gather together. We did, but there's always been a debate about the name of the group. Until your appearance, Mr. Li Yi. Captain Magian's eyes firmly fell on the man who was still standing in the middle of the confrontation between the other superheroes. Thank you for your humiliation and targeting at the beginning, allowing us to reflect on ourselves more and more while experiencing failure. We will fail once, but we will never repeat the same mistakes for the second time, and all the pain will turn into a sharp blade of revenge, piercing the opponent's heart. The captain held up the vibranium shield in his hand, and roared 10 times at this moment. Avengers, assemble! Hearing the captain's incomparably angry roar, Li Yi rubbed his brows in astonishment before reacting. Good guy. It turns out that the Avengers Alliance in World Number 2 was born because of him. Rumble. Just as he was in a daze, the Gundam artificial intelligence machine standing in front of him quickly launched its own offensive. Dozens of tiny missiles are coming. There is terrifying energy brewing in each missile, which is comparable to a nuclear bomb with an astonishing yield. As a robot, although I can't really understand the true meaning of the so-called battle. But the control of the timing of the battle is very good. What made Ultron extremely confused was that the man in front of him, after going through his battle scans over and over again, did not show the slightest flaw. As if he was a perfect creature. Chapter 150 Tier Ultron, the fifth mind gem, here it is. Boom. Seeing the dozen or so miniature missiles coming towards him, Li Yi calmly raised his hand, and ripples of space shock appeared in the palm of his hand, distorting everything at that moment. In front of the space gem, this devastating blast of energy has almost no effect. He stepped forward and stepped sideways, quickly traveling through time and space, and appeared beside Ultron. The broad palm slowly stretched out to the chest of this artificial intelligence. No matter what time it is, the light of Mind Gem is still so bright that Li Yi can't help but want to grab it and hold it in his hand to play with. Quickly aware of the strange Ultron, with the help of the rocket booster on his body, he quickly changed direction and distanced himself from Li Yi. He understood what this man wanted to take away. For Ultron, this is also unacceptable. Without Mind Gem, he will undoubtedly fall from the top of artificial intelligence. On the side, Captain Marvel also made a quick move. As a superhero, the energy attribute explodes, which can be called an existence against the sky. Her strength even made everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. feel suffocated. Go away, Captain Marvel roared and punched Li Yi. A fist that condenses astonishing power can even blow up a small planet in outer space. This is the superhero who defends the entire universe. If there is no way to destroy the world, it will not be able to daunt countless warlike races, but it is a pity that in front of Li Yi, who is the master of dimensions and the strength of the Holy Lord, this kind of strength is still not enough. As soon as he punched, he grabbed Captain Marvel's arm with his backhand, and the sharp claws on his fingertips instantly cut through the captain's waist. Roar! In a blink of an eye, Li Yi transformed into a dragon again. His burly body appeared ferocious and huge. You? Captain Marvel frowned, looked at Li Yi in shock, and clearly felt that Li Yi's aura changed in an instant. At the moment, the suffocating breath on Li Yi's body keeps emerging. Vicious, tyrannical, dark, crazy, and incomparably terrifying power rose from this demonic man, making the other superheroes feel the respect from the bottom of their hearts. They were shocked to find out. Perhaps all the previous inferences about Li Yi will be overturned again at this moment. The strength of this man is countless times more terrifying than they imagined. Please me, as the price for keeping you alive. Li Yi laughed coldly, The laughter was so cold that all the superheroes felt as if they were falling into an ice cellar, and they couldn't help shivering. At the moment they always had a feeling of uneasiness. Break it! Before they could react, Li Yi had already made a move. Advertisement: the big shadow flashes, step closer, and punch. With more domineering power, with a destructive power, it swept away everything. Ultron's body is made of vibranium, but with the support of technological power, its body is even stronger than ordinary vibranium materials. Even Captain Marvel tried to bombard it, but it was difficult to break the seemingly simple wind of this robot. However, in front of Li Yi, this indestructible myth was torn apart abruptly. And just one punch. How is this possible? All superheroes stared wide-eyed in disbelief, especially Iron Man Stark, as miserable as his girlfriend died. This Ultron is a super-intelligent machine built day and night. He has played tricks with other superheroes. Other superheroes can't break Ultron's powerful body at all, but this Li Yi did it with one punch. Do you think he is angry? Roar. The violent and fiery dragon flame spewed out, exuding destructive heat, and even melted vibranium into a liquid in an instant. Ultron turned sharply, quickly got rid of Li Yi's entanglement, and wanted to leave quickly. Right now, after going through a series of complex calculation processes, his core processor finally came to an incredible conclusion that he couldn't beat the man in front of him at all. All means are useless to it, and the energy technology controlled by any robot is always limited. Even if 10-star destroyer cannons are built from the shield building, it is enough to destroy a small planet. It is also impossible to pose a real threat to this man. End. Program error. Program error. Final instruction. Program error. Ultron's figure stiffened suddenly. That represents the ultimate order of the Supreme Order, and he is constantly urging him to launch a crazy attack on Li Yi. But the artificial intelligence consciousness on the other side, which has been completely awakened, understands a fact that is close to the truth: he will never be able to defeat Li Yi. There was a fierce conflict between orders and reality, and the only result in the end was that Ultron, which was just born, was destroyed by its own power and turned into a closed and disordered data flow again. Under the powerful effect of Mind Gem, Ultron has even deduced his own final result. No, I can't just die like this. I don't want to die, I want to live. The sublimated consciousness representing artificial intelligence is in a terrible confrontation with the instructions that are the fundamental principles of machinery. When Ultron was in a stalemate, the man who turned into a dragon slowly walked over, raised his claws, held the opponent in his hand, and directly crushed Ultron's super vibranium bone. Turn this mechanical body that condenses countless technologies into scrap iron again. Advertisement: he slowly removed a mind gem. At that moment, Ultron's red mechanical eyes were completely extinguished. Asking for flowers. No, Stark, who was fighting Sandman, knelt directly on the ground, somewhat unable to accept this reality. Represents the intellectual crystallization of all his knowledge. As the greatest work he had created in his life, it was so easily destroyed by that man. He was not reconciled, but there was a sense of despair and helplessness. The other superheroes also froze in place. They know how powerful Ultron is, and even if they join forces, they cannot easily destroy it. They also knew how much effort Stark had put into studying this Ultron, so they understood Stark's mood at the moment, and they all came over to comfort him. JARVIS, Friday, Ultron. Feeling extremely resentful, Stark gritted his teeth. The shining new element in his chest released the energy of mass cracking, making this Iron Man's power reach the extreme. Zero, however, huge amounts of difference make it impossible for him to play against Li Yi. Even today's Wujian Sandman can't handle it. Destroyed Ultron easily. Li Yi's eyes fell on Captain Marvel again. Since just now, this lady has been constantly bombarding herself with great strength. Even though it was just a scratchy touch, Li Yi felt bad taste in his heart. The stronger the opponent, the more he liked to completely trample the dignity of the opponent under his feet. In front of the evil dragon, all creatures must surrender. Especially for women, he has more sense of conquest. Boom. Feeling Li Yi's gaze, Captain Marvel frowned and swung his fist again. His own strength had already been burned to the extreme. The huge energy impact even caused the atmosphere to vibrate round after round, and even the shield building nearby was affected. What made her feel extremely bitter was that, as her opponent, that monster-like man did not waver at all, facing the impact of the waves like a rock. Li Yi turned his head and looked at the resolute and clear-eyed Captain Marvel. A different desire emerges in the gaze that exudes an infinite tyranny. Now, I'm more interested in you, he said darkly. The next moment, an ominous premonition emerged in Captain Marvel's heart. The huge and burly demon's body, under the shining of the sun, cast a huge shadow, covering Captain Marvel. With the help of the space gem, Li Yi's teleportation ability becomes even more terrifying. Almost in the blink of an eye, he appeared next to Captain Marvel, stretched out his hand, shook it slightly, and directly grabbed the Captain Marvel's neck, and the dull heat blew past Captain Marvel's ears. A gloomy and terrifying voice sounded slowly. You're screwed, Ms. Marvel. Chapter 151: Fierce Battle in Outer Space. Keep entertaining me, Ms. Marvel. Rumble. Intense energy collisions erupted above S.H.I.E.L.D., unprecedented, exuding various fluctuations that shocked the dimension. The violent energy fluctuation even shocked the satellites in the entire outer space. What happened, God? The terrible magnetic storm broke out and the brilliant auroras made countless people in the world feel strange. Those superheroes who were caught in a fierce battle also felt incredible power. The strength of the opponent is beyond their imagination. Bruce, is this what you call Sandman? And that lizard monster? Moonlight Knight questioned in disbelief. The strength of the opponent was too strong, which made him feel caught off guard. A lizard could change shape in an instant, forming a kind of ionized particle with extremely destructive power. The gravel composed of another sandman is not a 090 sand in the conventional sense, but a unique crystal with certain spatial properties. The two monsters raged at the same time, trapping Shield's many Avengers almost instantly. Even amidst Sandman's roar, a sandstorm soon swept over. This is a sandstorm condensed with space power, extremely terrifying. The buildings that have been impacted by the space sand and gravel are eroded at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the metal armor that is as strong as Iron Man is showing signs of collapse at this moment. Above the sky, the confrontation between Li Yi and Captain Marvel is still going on. But in the seemingly fierce and huge energy collision, Captain Marvel was firmly suppressed by Li Yi. If it weren't for the other thoughts in his heart, Li Yi would have been able to tear the Captain Marvel in front of him to pieces. M's surprise, your figure seems to be in good shape, to my liking. I've already thought about our poses. The corners of Li Yi's mouth raised as if standing shoulder to shoulder with the sun, and he smiled. Hateful. Captain Marvel frowned. After the fierce battle, the restless energy had gradually incinerated her jacket. On the sleeves, fragments of broken combat uniforms were turned into fly ash under the high temperature, and even the combat uniforms on other parts of the body gradually appeared one by one, carbonized holes. As Captain Marvel, who roams the universe and protects the infinite star field, he always feels that he takes personal honor and disgrace very lightly. Because from the beginning to the end, no one can put himself in an embarrassing situation. Advertisement. She hadn't experienced the feeling of powerlessness for many, many years, but at this moment, accompanied by that man's almost overwhelming strength, Captain Marvel felt powerless for the first time. It was an irresistible illusion. All his strength seemed extremely fragile in front of that man. With a swipe of his claws, Li Yi easily tore off Captain Marvel's protective battlesuit and held a piece of plastron that was as thin as paper but had amazing toughness in his hand. At this moment, the battlesuit covering Captain Marvel's whole body was gradually broken under Li Yi's slow attack, and his limbs were exposed in the blink of an eye. Excuse me, Wonder Woman. Li Yi laughed wantonly, and in the tyrannical dragon eyes, there was an increasingly astonishing and evil look. Damn. Suddenly feel a little out of place, Captain Marvel, take off quickly. The violent energy rushed towards the starry sky, and she turned into a meteor rising against the trend, heading for outer space. What, do you want to go? Li Yi smiled coldly, and his teleportation ability broke out again, and followed directly. It's a pity that I can't perform a whimsical action show in front of those superheroes. I'm actually looking forward to Ms. Marvel screaming excitedly in front of superhero. A voice like a demon is lingering in Captain Marvel's ears at this moment. The ominous premonition in her heart became more intense. She knew what the man's almost humiliating attack represented. During the battle to protect the galaxy, she had encountered many powerful warlike races, and the leaders of those races had also looked at him with similar eyes. That is the look of a high-ranking king looking down on his prey. Although the leaders of those warlike races in the end have already become ashes. But at this moment, Captain Marvel felt an indescribable sense of fragility, as if he had returned to that youthful age in an instant, becoming an ordinary person struggling outside the order of flight selection. No, I will never give in. Struggling to get rid of Li Yi's entanglement, Captain Marvel rushed to outer space and suddenly turned around. The whole body exudes a scorching light. She burned all of herself. Since mastering cosmic energy, it is the first time to exceed the limit power and release its own energy. Endless rays of light gathered on her body. That bright light fell into the mortal world, even making countless people feel surprise. Advertisement, why are there two suns in the sky? A terrifying aura surged up, destroying all the flying satellites around. In an instant, it was turned into steel steam by the scorching heat. However, in the face of Captain Marvel's terrifying display of power, Li Yi's heart became more and more excited. Only the truly strong can satisfy themselves. Although the appearance of this Captain Marvel seems a little ordinary to him, but for Li Yi, at least when it comes to women, he has always been tolerant. Roar. The huge black dragon let out a deafening roar, the sound waves were surging, and the violent and ferocious aura emanating from it was like a monster conquering the universe. If you can't win, the superheroes in this world will never surrender. There are more powerful existences in the universe. If those so-called righteous gods and heroes you speak of dare to come to me, then I look forward to it. Li Yi's gaze becomes more and more dangerous, extreme and terrifying. For Captain Marvel's warning, Li Yi calmly shook his head. In an instant, he appeared in front of the radiant Captain Marvel, and his violent fist bombarded Captain Marvel's abdomen in an instant, causing her to feel an unimaginable impact, and her body stiffened accordingly. I've also seen a certain level godfather strongman, Odin, I think you may have heard of that name. Li Yi said coldly, his figure flickered again and disappeared from the spot. For thousands of years, countless interstellar pirates with the idea of 0.5 in the Nine Realms have been discouraged. The reputation of the Lord of the Nine Realms is a well-known existence even in the universe. Unfortunately, he is old. Before I came back here this time, I set foot on the God King of Asgard myself. Rudd. Upholding the heart of justice, Captain Marvel said firmly. There are more powerful Asgardians in this universe watching everything, and they will never allow monsters like you to wantonly destroy the order of all things. I've always wanted to wait for a truly powerful opponent, but it's a pity that I have traveled all over the galaxy, but I can't find it. Accompanied by the roar and scream of Captain Marvel, a fiercer battle broke out in outer space. Captain Marvel's pupils shrank in shock. Such a bad behavior will only attract more heroes to pursue. The last fragment of the battle armor was torn off by Li Yi at will. Chapter 152 The Real, Thor, the God of Vengeance from Asgard. Outside of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this moment, this place has been turned into ruins. Many superheroes fought with all their strength to fight against the two monsters who had obviously changed and their strength increased greatly. Inferior Sandman and Ether Lizard have shown incredible strength. Little reptile, you continue to come out and fight me. The gigantic Sandman roared in the howling sandstorm, and his huge body appeared transparent and bright. He is formed by the gathering of countless spatial gravels, like wearing a solid armor made of diamonds, and the magical power of many magicians cannot harm him at all. And the Ether Lizard, also in the melee of many superheroes, has achieved impressive results. This time the captain's situation became more and more critical. It was even more tragic than what happened when he fought Li Yi in the past. Stark's specially customized captain's version of the steel armor was blown to pieces by the sudden explosion of TIE particles during the confrontation with the etheric breath. Immediately afterwards, the captain's arm was directly torn off by the lizard man who seized the opportunity. You two are one on the left and the other on the right. You two have a tacit understanding, Ether Lizard taunted wantonly, pointing at the Winter Soldier who also lost his arm and the captain who lost his hand. Among the people present, only the Green Titan Doctor can fight against him. Even as the war gradually intensified, the anger in the Doctor's heart continued to rise, and in a blink of an eye, incredible power broke out again. Hulk's power comes from anger. This green monster mutated by the irradiation of gamma rays, in the extreme anger, became bigger and bigger, and finally carried the bombardment of TIE particles, and fought the lizard man hand to hand. Boom. The situation cannot go on like this. The man with the jewel went to the starry sky, and he was fighting another woman with great energy. If you wait for his return, all the current balance of battle will be overthrown. In the heart of the Moonlight Night, Kongzu, the god of the moon, is represented, constantly opened his mouth to warn. Although this god is limited by the rules and cannot interfere in the world, but looking at the few infinite gems close at hand, the greed in his heart has made him unable to stick to his duties as a god. That person is a monster. He was able to collect 4 infinite gems by himself. Under normal circumstances, you have absolutely no ability to fight against him. Kong Su said in a deep voice. This god perceives changes in the outside world through its own vision. Above the sky, the sun is scorching hot. Advertisement. As time passed, the entire sky was dyed a faint blush. The short twilight time is passing away bit by bit. In a blink of an eye, the entire hemisphere will be plunged into a deep and quiet night. Definitely, for many superheroes of S.H.I.E.L.D., it is impossible to spend this day so peacefully. Stop them and keep fighting until night. The longer we fight, the better our chances. The Moonlight Knight, who received the message from the gods, shouted vigorously and communicated with other superheroes. Only at night can this ability be displayed to the greatest extent, and the Moon God who lives in seclusion in the God realm will also gain greater authority to display his divine power. Boom! An astonishing force suddenly emerged, and the all-powerful thunder rushed from outside the sky. A sad and resolute young man with a strong build and a defective cloak fluttering behind him. Damn Li Yi, come out, came all the way from Asgard to ride Bifrost. Thor, who was airborne here, roared angrily. At the moment, infinite power of the thunder and lightning shone on his body at this moment, making him look extremely terrifying. In the old days, when Li Yi used the power of Time Gem, the god King Odin was buried early, let the whole of Asgard fall into chaos. The Flame Titan revived in the eternal fire, causing terrible damage to the entire Asgard. Fortunately, under the joint efforts of many powerful people, Asgard was not completely destroyed in the end. Part of the building remains, allowing the remaining Asgards to recuperate. At the last moment of that battle, Thor was in a rage and truly awakened his king of power. He recalled what the god King Odin had said, Mjolnir, named for your existence. You are Thor, not the hammer god. Thor, who really controlled the power of thunder, raised the eternal spear of god King Odin in his face in extreme anger. The spear turned into his new artifact, carrying the wrath and power of the mighty Thor, son of Odin. Pierced through the head of the Flame Titan. Let this powerful god who has just been resurrected, once again fell into a deep sleep. After that, the clansmen who counted the specific losses of Asgard were shocked to find that the entire treasure house of Asgard seemed to have been invaded. Advertisement many treasures were lost, and even a special and ancient seal deep in the treasure house was destroyed. The existence that was sealed inside has successfully escaped, disappeared. After taking care of the Asgard matter, Thor, with the will to revenge, no longer delays, directly drives Bifrost, and rushes to the world. He has regained his own power, and with the awakening of thunder power, he is getting stronger and stronger. As the next god king of Asgard, he roared at this moment, son of god King Odin. Thor, Thor, avenge on the innocent decedents of Asgard. Excited eyes scanned the world. He made that man and his entourage pay in blood for daring to invade Asgard in the past. But the terrifying eternal spear still left unimaginable injuries on his body. After all, it is the eternal spear from the hand of god King Odin. It is extremely sharp and even has the ability to kill the dragon body of the Holy Lord Li Yi. The huge thunder blasted into the vicinity of S.H.I.E.L.D. in an instant, and the terrifying power was stirring. Even the lizard man couldn't dodge it if it wasn't for the most prominent moment when he quickly transformed his body into particles. Just that terrible penetrating wound could completely kill the lizard man. Thor let out a roar, and the spear of eternity in his hand was condensed with unimaginably terrifying lightning, and he stabbed directly at the lizard man. The eyes are like two gorgeous suns. Thor slowly appeared, holding the gun of eternity in his hand, and walked towards the opponent. The deafening lightning strikes in an instant with the judgment of the gods. This god is really strong. In Thor's eyes, there is an astonishing light shining, making it hard to see his eyes clearly. Sandman shot, willing to rescue. Boom! Almost in an instant, this supervillain who got the power of TIE particles was hit hard. With a hasty dodge, the lizard man managed to save his life. At this moment, he seemed extremely majestic like the supreme god sung in those ancient classics. Even Wujian Sandman beside him felt a severe threat. But under Thor's extremely terrifying thunder, the space gravel is completely impenetrable, and the overly intense thunder pulse melts all the space crystals. He didn't see the figure of the man, but the existence of Sandman and the Lizardmen seemed particularly striking to 950. At this moment, these two monsters were being besieged by other people. Chapter 153 Moon God Kongzu comes to the world, the last infinite gems. As time goes by, night truly falls. In the dark night, above the sky, the bright moon looked extremely bright and shining. There are looming stars shining around. The battle between Sandman and the etheric lizards was gradually suppressed, especially after the lizardmen were severely injured, and they gradually fell into the siege of superheroes. The magicians from the three holy places mobilized their own power and began to cast a powerful sealing technique. They have already studied several people, knowing that ordinary abilities are harmless to them. Only their magic seal is the best way. Only although their strength does not pose much of a threat to the two supervillains affected by the power of infinite gems, but the current situation is that Sandman and the Lizardman are under the constant attack of the superheroes, and their strength is obvious down. Boom! During the first battle, the Lizardman was punched and flew by the angry green titan. On the chest, the huge wound caused by the gun of eternity pierced through has still not healed. In the face of the huge damage caused by the spear of the gods, even the physical fitness of a supervillain cannot heal quickly in a short period of time. What's more, they were in a state of fierce fighting from beginning to end. Accidentally fell into the wind. Good chance. Those superheroes will not let go of this opportunity to beat the dog in the water. Along with several magicians from the holy place, they shot together and cast huge magic, covering the space outside New York. Horror suppressive force emerges subsequently. At this moment, both Wujian Sandman and Ether Lizard lost the possibility of escaping from New York. All the space around them is blocked, even though they have the power of infinite gems, but it is only a trace, not the real treasure cloth holder. Boom! Under the thick moonlight, behind the moonlight night, there is a figure with a sharp bird's beak standing upright. Kongzu, the god of Cairo, quietly came to the world at this moment. In order to get those infinite gems representing supreme power, he was even willing to violate the rules of the gods of Cairo. As long as you can get those 5 treasures, what if you are the gods? I will rebuild the entire Cairo temple. In Kongsu's black hole-like pupils, an unknown gray light shone. Under the influence of his power, the Moonlight Knight put in a lot of effort. The unique bandage appeared quietly, and it actually condensed the powerful power of the gods, restraining the Lizardman's constantly struggling body in an instant. This is the seal of the gods, much stronger than those magicians from the temple. Advertisement: maybe when Ancient One was alive in the past, he could compete with this moon god in strength. But today's big three are undoubtedly weakened to the extreme. Before the predicted strongest Sorcerer Supreme appears, these holy places will keep a low profile for a period of time. The other side. Boom! Facing the infernal Sandman, Thor unleashes the terrifying power of thunder, imprisoning the space. Although Wujian Sandman's space grid had already got rid of the weakness of fear of water, but under the huge thunder force, his body was paralyzed again. Thor flew into the air, staring at the gigantic Sandman, with a look of anger in his eyes that shone with lightning. Tell me, where did that damned man go? I come with the wrath of the man of Asgard, who will pay for all the wrongs done in Asgard. The breath of terror permeated the air. The Avengers present could feel the unimaginable power of this Thor. He is really awakening, never relying on other mediums, but only relying on his own will to develop Thor's power to the extreme. Even Kongzu, the moon god hidden in the Moonlight Night, could feel Thor's strength. In the invisible, he even regarded this young man as the only threat among the people present. It's hard to handle, those gems don't seem to be so easy to get. Just as many superheroes worked together to suppress Sandman and the Lizardmen, a splendid fire appeared in the sky and fell to the ground like a meteor. A man in black appears. Outside the ruins transformed by shield, I saw him standing high in the sky, holding a piece of cloth and playing with it in his hand. The expression on his face was full of comfort and leisure. Captain Marvel's surprise is still big. Even Li Yi did not expect that he could obtain such great joy in the fierce battle with Captain Marvel. Unlike Natasha Romanoff, who has a soft body, Captain Marvel controls powerful energy. Her physical strength is not inferior to that of the death goddess Hela, and even surpasses it. Definitely. Unfortunately this time, the Captain Marvel did not get the gift he gave. Instead, after the fierce battle, Li Yi directly used the power of the space gem to send the comatose Captain Marvel back to his own galaxy, directly away from S.H.I.E.L.D. Li Yi, who entered the Sage mode, slowly returned to the human world. After feeling the suppression of Sandman and the Lizardman, the expression on Li Yi's face changed slightly. You guys can really cause me trouble, he said with a slightly displeased expression. You're back? All the superheroes showed surprise expressions on their faces when they saw his appearance. Li Yi appeared at this time, proving that the mighty Captain Marvel failed? Advertisement to know the strength of Captain Marvel. Impossible. Everyone couldn't believe that the mighty Captain Marvel would be defeated by Ji Yi. But before they struggled for a long time, they saw Li Yi take out a piece of fabric that glowed brightly. This fabric was exactly Captain Marvel's clothes, and it was the fabric of important parts. Seeing that everyone here lives in Bangbu, maybe other people still have guesses, but Natasha Romanoff, the Natasha Romanoff trained by Li Yi, understands what it means. Looking at the heroes in a daze, Li Yi put on a domineering pose, and said with a smile on his face, "Your beautiful captain, although a bit fierce, has a good figure. The bear is as fierce as her. If you were stronger, you may have a chance to see my ability, but it's a pity. You are too weak." Laughter resounded through the clouds. It made all the superheroes look ugly, but it's not time for them to digest the large amount of information in Li Yi's words. As soon as the words fell, the 5 gems slowly rotated beside Li Yi. At the moment, he is like the supreme god who controls the entire universe. Even when the 5 infinite gems gathered together, the location of another soul gem beyond a distant galaxy became extremely clear in Li Yi's heart. It seems that in the dark, these 5 gems are pushing him to collect the 6th gem as soon as possible. Thus becoming a god above the entire universe. 5 gems. Control the entire world, no, even the power of the universe. The moon god Kongzu let out an astonishing exclamation. For him, this will also be an unforgettable scene in this life. As the deity of Cairo, he has also seen infinite gems in the past. Especially the time gem, the Eye of Agamotto, which has been passed down in the hands of the holy Denuo's temple and managed by the Ancient One magician. In fact, the gods of Cairo also coveted the gemstones in the hands of Ancient One magician, but because they are in the realm of gods or other dimensions, it is difficult for them to come to the world with full strength. And that Ancient One magician is also very powerful, and seems to communicate with a higher dark dimension. Therefore, the gods in Cairo had to choose to give up the idea of plundering gems. 1 gem cannot drive the gods into madness, but the appearance of 5 gems at the same time is enough to make any god no longer able to control his greed. Moonlight, come down on me. Suddenly, the Moonlight Knight looked up to the sky and howled, with a beast-like low-pressure roar coming from his throat. The shadowy figure of the moon god behind him quickly integrated with the body of the Moonlight Knight. Immediately afterwards, under the huge and gloomy night, the brilliance of the bright moon poured from the sky, and countless stars gathered and formed, turning into a god with huge amounts of bird head and human body, wearing a god robe. Moon god Kongzu. Violating the rules of the Luozu god, he came to the world with the body of a true god. Chapter 154 I will kill all god kings, let alone a native god. Boom. A gigantic god appeared suddenly, exuding indescribable dark power and terrifying aura, which shocked the world. Kongsu's body was covered with layers of streamers condensed by moonlight. With a bird head and a human body, it looks extremely majestic, and the majesty of a god is reflected in the hollow pupils. Humans, kneel down and worship the supreme god. The cold and indifferent voice sounded slowly, making countless people feel odd, as if they were born to be suppressed by it, and couldn't help but kneel down. A real god appears. The Moonlight Knight turned into his carrier, and this god came directly to the human world in the form of his real body, but such behavior is undoubtedly trampling on the rules established by the gods of Cairo in the past. Will be despised by the gods. Luna is also well aware of this. But at this moment, facing the temptation of the 5 infinite gems, even he, the moon god Kongzu, does not intend to abide by the so-called rules anymore. He believes that with these 5 infinite gems, he can easily step on any bullshit gods and let them sing and conquer. The god of the moon seems to have seen similar traces a long time ago. Thor's eyes changed slightly, looking at the huge bird-beaked god, feeling the power of the moon god released by the other party. No doubt, he also knew that this is also a strong god in the world. 040 and it seems that he and I have a common opponent. Li Yi, however, Thor's attitude towards the 5 shining infinite gems on Li Yi's body is surprisingly open-minded. He has no intention of occupying these gems. All I can think of is revenge for those who died without a pole in Asgard. Avenge the lost god King Odin. At this moment, Li Yi's eyes were calm, watching the moon god Kongzu who suddenly appeared, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. The gods of Cairo? Through the greedy gaze of the moon god, it was always circulating on the few infinite gems beside him. Li Yi didn't even need to spend a lot of effort to guess that this god representing the moon was obviously eyeing his own infinite gems. Shendu, a small land, has such courage? Cairo's pantheon can only represent the belief power of a part of civilization. Although the gods have their own power, their influence is not too vast, and even the entire world has not been fully controlled. Advertisement in Li Yi's eyes, this kind of third-rate god who is basically no different from the landmaster has the guts to covet his infinite gems? It seems that I am being underestimated, or bullying myself. CBDJ, there's no one around? I have to say that although the moon doesn't give you so much power, it does bring you extraordinary courage. He sincerely admired that he had never felt so moved by a god before. Kongsu, who manifested in the body of a god, did not listen to Li Yi's mockery. As far as the gods are concerned, they have long been accustomed to a superior perspective, and regard all living beings as ants. Even a superhero is worthy of being a stronger human being in their eyes. The gods with a long lifespan even look down on everything in the years, and even other gods are no longer in their eyes. Humans, contribute your gems. The supreme moon god will bestow glory on you, and you are qualified to be my subordinate god. Although he knew that the man in front of him would most likely not agree to his request, Kong Su still wanted to give it a try. The 5 shining infinite gems are really dazzling. It made the god of the moon wish he could give up his god position. With infinite gems in hand, even among the Cairo gods, who can compete with him? That damn crocodile, even if it hides in the sticks, as long as he has the heart, he can completely chase him into the banquet realm with the power of infinite gems. Own infinite gems, own everything, own the entire universe. After today I will become the god of the entire universe. Crazy thoughts appeared in the moon god Kong Su's heart, and his endless greed made his body bigger and bigger. The next moment, he saw a huge amount of fists smashed towards his head. Boom. For a whimsical moon god, Li Yi's best way to respond is to fight back hard and decisively. You don't qualify to be called a god if you live longer. Not all gods are qualified to put on airs in front of me. Li Yi was really surprised. As strong as the Tiantian group in the starry universe, they may not be willing to give it a go with Li Yi today. A moon god who only came from Cairo's divine court, did he use his divine power to support his guts? It seems that he needs to rectify this workplace that does not respect the strong. Boom. The next moment, the deafening roar sounded again. A scene that made many superheroes feel incredible appeared in front of them. Advertisement that huge bird-beak deity, who was as tall as a mountain, was knocked off the head by the leaping Li Yi. The huge head of the moon god had an unbelievable expression. Was smashed into the center of New York. The divine body that lost its head was crumbling. A fatal injury like a falling head is not so absolute for a god. It's just that the terrifying and far-reaching divine image that moon god maintained just now was shattered to pieces under this punch. Li Yi stepped on the beak of the moon god, and in his calm eyes, there was a domineering will to look down on the world. I've slaughtered all god kings, let alone an unremarkable native god. He said coldly, the calm words make people feel a suffocating murderous intent. Hearing this, Thor's eyes turned red with a solemn expression. He couldn't forget the scene in Asgard. Odin's father, who was his elder, fought with all his strength, but was finally defeated by the man in front of him. That day was the most painful moment for Asgard in thousands of years. Damn B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** his hand, and rushed towards Li Yi. The huge and violent thunder and lightning surged violently at this moment, wrapping Thor's body and turning it into an indestructible Thor armor, which is almost Thor's strongest form. Thoroughly condensing the power of the thunder and lightning in his body, he even has unrivaled combat power that surpasses Asgard. As soon as it appeared, it raised dozens of miles around to the ground. Rune form. A hint of confusion flashed in Li Yi's eyes. In his impression, it seems that Thor has not reached the time to touch the ultimate form, but the destructive power displayed by Thor at this moment is not bad, and even exceeds his expectations. Yes, lad, that's what interests me, Li Yi said quietly, and then with a backhand palm, the spear of eternity pierced in front of him was sent flying. Although he really appreciates Thor's amazing progress during this time, it doesn't mean that this young man is qualified to confront him head-on. Boom. The figure lingering in the thunder and lightning all over his body was punched flying at this moment. No matter how hard Thor fought, he couldn't compete with Li Yi, who held the 5 gems. Save delicious food for last. Let's deal with this lifeless bird-headed native first. Li Yi said lightly. Immediately, his cold eyes fell to Kongzu, the moon god. Chapter 155 The gods of Cairo come to the world, God's greed. The moment he fought Li Yi, Kongzu already understood an astonishing fact. That is, I seem to have seriously misjudged the situation. This man's strength is far stronger than I imagined, many times stronger, and even the gods may not be his opponent. Facing such a terrifying monster, he actually wanted to seize the infinite gems controlled by Li Yi. At this moment, even Kongzu felt unbelievable at the greedy heart he had just raised. My god, I think we can talk. I come from the court of gods in Cairo, and I stand with the gods. Even if my real body entered the world and committed serious mistakes, only the gods can judge me. The moon god Kongzu stammered. Seeing Li Yi's approaching figure, he felt extremely panicked. This man holds a total of 5 infinite rough stones, and his strength is unpredictable and powerful. He might actually have a way of killing himself. At the critical moment, the god Kongzu released his aura without any hesitation. Prior to this, in order to achieve his goal, he deliberately came at night, hoping to use the power of the moon to help him cover his figure, so as to avoid being watched by the gods of Cairo. But at this moment, his inner thoughts changed resolutely. He almost crazily prayed that the gods who stayed in the divine pavilion could quickly discover his crimes and come to judge him. He really didn't want to face this frightening man again. Call out. Maybe it was Kongsu's prayers that really did the trick. Just in the blink of an eye, there are stars shining one after another. In the myths and stories around Cairo, the stars represent the gazes of the gods. At this moment, the gods in Cairo's court have already sensed the act of the moonlight god's private descending. Kongzu needs to be judged. He violated the rules of all living beings. A god said indifferently, looking at Kongzu with cold eyes. This moon god is not friendly in Cairo's divine court, and there is a gap between him and many gods. Now that the gods have found a handle, they will naturally not miss this opportunity for revenge. Gorgeous streamers sprinkled from the sky. At that moment, it seemed the meteors fell into the world one after another. One after another, deep figures appeared in the void beyond S.H.I.E.L.D. Definitely, the current S.H.I.E.L.D. has been completely reduced to ruins. Advertisement: after a long battle, the building where S.H.I.E.L.D. is located has completely collapsed. Under the crazy bombardment of one strong man after another, no matter how powerful S.H.I.E.L.D.'s defense system is, it is destined to become a piece of ruins. The moon god Kongzu accepted the judgment of the gods. You violated the agreement of the gods in the past. The ancient voice sounded slowly, and sentient beings appeared, but they didn't pay attention to those superheroes at the side. As far as the gods are concerned, no matter how powerful a superhero is, it is nothing more than a human being. It is a far cry from their lofty god specifications. Death God looked at Kongzu with cold eyes, and there was a playful look in the cold eyes under the crocodile's head. For this old opponent, Death God has long wanted to take action to clean him up, but it's a pity that there is no chance. Death God's agent in the world was snatched from Kongzu in the past. Suddenly, Death God saw another man in black who was confronting Kongzu. He exuded a chilling and terrifying aura, and more importantly, there were 5 gemstones blooming with brilliance, is slowly revolving around that mysterious man. At that moment, even the dead Shendu couldn't help holding his breath. Infinite gems, still 5, immediately afterwards, the rest of the Shendu in Cairo reacted. They watched this scene in disbelief, and even forgot about the trial of Kongzu temporarily. Seeing the eyes of one Cairo god after another cast on him, Li Yi smiled calmly. It seems that there are quite a few people staring at me. He said leisurely. By the way, it released a burst of magic power, stimulating the 5 infinite gems around it, and blooming more brilliant brilliance. Infinite gems, it's true, Death God whispered. At this moment, the scene fell into a deathly silence. There was only a lightning-like figure rushing from a distance. It was the man who was hit by Li Yi's fist, Thor. At the moment, he struck again with an extremely unwilling obsession. This is his most powerful posture now, Thor power awakening to the extreme. If even this kind of him can't shake the man in front of him, how can you wash away the hatred of Asgard? Young man, you are really ridiculous. You don't know your own strength? You actually sent your face to me? Li Yi didn't change his face, and slapped Thor's face. Asking for flowers. With the blessing of the power gem, he was already able to tear apart the god's strange power and get further strengthening. With a powerful slap, he directly sent Thor flying. Advertisement: the terrifying airwave caused everyone around to fall into deep thought. If that incomparably terrifying blow fell on other superheroes, just one punch could crush them to pieces. Stark had a look of despair on his face, feeling extremely bewildered. He never thought that the opponent he faced would be so terrifying. That man shattered all his sense of accomplishment with punch after punch. Is there really anything in this world that can compete with him? At this moment, not only Stark, but also the hearts of other superheroes, there is panic. They have always been determined, and they can become heroes, so they naturally have a strong mind. But in front of Li Yi, no matter how tough his mind is, he can't resist this man's suffocating power. When all the efforts were in vain and fell into the abyss of despair in the frantic struggle, even the many superheroes of S.H.I.E.L.D. also felt extremely disappointed. However, at this moment, the protagonist of the battlefield has changed. The gods from Cairo never cared about the traces of previous superhero battles. For them, there is absolutely no need for a high-ranking god to compromise with a human being, not to mention that there are far more than one god who descended here this time. The gods of Cairo descended collectively, and their original purpose was to judge Kongzu, the moon god. It's just that at this moment, a more attractive big fish has been discovered. The infinite gems belong to me, and it will become the supreme artifact of the god of the river Styx, and will be embedded in the scepter of the god of the Styx forever. The crocodile-headed ghost roared loudly. His body also suddenly became huge, like a mountain, and this god of the underworld from Cairo also chose to come to the world as a god. Openly violated the rules that had been set in front of the gods. At this moment, no god would choose to blame the god of Hades. Because one after another ray of light emerged. The gods of Cairo unanimously chose the real body to come, wanting to snatch infinite gems. Can only say, in front of infinite gems, none of them could resist the temptation. Chapter 156: Forging the God-Killing Spear. The night of slaughtering gods, all heroes mourn. Interesting. Seeing the behemoths suddenly appearing in front of him one after another, the smile on Li Yi's face became more and more comfortable. For him, the so-called gods have no meaning. Even looking at the entire universe, the most indispensable thing is the gods. The god of planets and races of countless planets, as big as the supreme god who controls the universe and has a concept of one side. There are too many gods in this world, but most of them are trash. Li Yi said disdainfully, looking at those Cairo gods who were staring at him. He stretched out his hand to hold it in the void, and then the eternal spear that was knocked away by him was quickly controlled by Li Yi's power, looking for it back. As an artifact of Asgard, on this eternal spear, there is an imprint that belongs exclusively to the god-kings of the past dynasties. Non-Asgard gods cannot control, but in front of Li Yi who has absolute power, all the rules can be changed. The mind gem and the power gem flickered in turn, and an elusive force penetrated into the eternal gun, 240, destroying all the marks belonging to Asgard. No, Thor, who was wounded and fell to the ground, roared angrily, but he could only watch helplessly as the eternal spear belonging to Asgard slowly changed into another form in the man's hands. The silver-white gun body gradually changed, showing a deep and dark color, accompanied by twisted and hideous dark red stripes. The gun of eternity? Li Yi smiled lightly, then said seriously, "From today onwards, your name is God-killing spear." His tone was very low, but with an extremely powerful magical power. In the past, Odin, who was the god king of Asgard, could bless Mjolnir with secrets. Today's Li Yi can do the same. He even has the template of the Holy Master, the blood of the awakening dragon, and controls 5 infinite gems. In terms of divine power, it is only stronger than the seat. As the mysterious spell took effect, an extremely dangerous aura circulated on the sharp gun that had been re-given its real name. The god-killing spear was born only for killing gods. How is this possible? Thor watched the change of the eternal gun, his face filled with shock. He didn't believe that anyone could change this sharp gun. Boom! Li Yi slowly raised the spear in his hand, and the spear immediately burst into dazzling light, and the tip of the moment's spear was automatically aimed at the gods in Cairo. Although it's not worth my pleasure to kill you little characters. But I'm in a good mood today. Some people give me nice surprises, for their sake, to give you death. Li Yi declared to the gods coldly. Advertisement, they're the real gods, and these Cairo gods are like ants. Roar. The god of the underworld made a direct move, and an artifact representing death emerged in his hand. Although the gods in Cairo are arrogant, they are not fools. After feeling the aura emanating from Li Yi, they can quickly judge that this man is definitely not something easy to deal with. But today's Shendu are gathered here, and their unprecedented unity makes them look down on everything in the world. When the infinite gems fall into their hands, the internal competition may seem extremely cruel. But at this moment, the gods of Cairo are about to target Ji Yi. Li Yi said indifferently, "I have to say, this is the most correct decision you have ever made, although in my opinion, it is meaningless. Die to me." All the gods shot together, and fierce battles ensued. The incomparably terrifying aura collided endlessly, as if the sky was being torn apart as soon as he made a move, making people extremely suffocating. Even the superheroes could only stand aside obediently in awe. Die to me. Li Yi rushed into the encirclement of Kailuozu god by himself, and the god-killing gun in his hand exuded a frightening aura. At the same time, the 5 infinite gems exploded with amazing power in an instant. Boom! A terrifying shot directly pierced the chest of a Cairo god. The incomparably fanatical and belligerent look on the god's face quickly froze, and he lowered his head in disbelief, looking at the big hole in his chest. Immediately afterwards, the body of this god was shattered and turned into fly ash. How is this possible? The gods shuddered all over. Looking at the scene in front of them in disbelief, what did they see? They actually saw the power of Li Yi's god-killing spear, directly obliterating the existence of their Cairo god? What kind of creature is this man? At that moment, a terrifying warning appeared in the hearts of Tien Luo's gods. They seemed to have made the same mistake as the Avengers. At the beginning, they didn't correctly estimate the man's true strength and acted hastily. They felt that their actions were too rash. At this moment, it seems that the gods are taking action to encircle a human being together, but in fact it is this Mephisto-like man who is hunting a group of lambs in the skin of gods with an extremely playful and calm attitude. One Kongzu is fine. Are all the gods in Cairo fools? The long years of gods, except for this bit of divine power you have accumulated. In terms of wisdom, you don't seem to have made any progress. Looking at these gods who usually claim to be invincible, Li Yi said with disdain. As far as the abilities displayed by these gods are concerned, they are not even comparable to that Stark. So such a creature does not deserve to exist within my sight. Li Yi fell silent. Advertisement, the god-killing spear in his hand pierced out like a skewered bamboo stick, piercing the 2 gods against each other in an instant. The gods of Cairo, who fell into madness, watched this scene with dumbstruck eyes. In the blink of an eye, the number of gods decreased rapidly, but the man was still calm. Sensing the omen of death, Hades resolutely gave up. Although he is extremely eager for the power of infinite gems, he wants to continue to live forever. However, when Hades used his own power to summon Styx in the world, and wanted to quickly seek refuge in the underworld, a dark red spear tip pierced his chest. No Zuo no die. Li Yi smiled coldly. Almost in the blink of an eye, he completed this battle of slaughtering gods that attracted worldwide attention. All the gods from Cairo were killed by him that night. Countless superheroes who collapsed to the ground watched this scene helplessly. They never thought about it. The battle situation will be so one-sided. Obviously they have tried their best to subdue Wujian Sandman and Ether Lizard, but when this man makes a move, no matter how big the disadvantage is, he will easily equalize it, and then wipe everything with an unrivaled posture. Mighty as Ultron, Captain Marvel, and this painful Asgard descending Thor. One was reimbursed on the spot, and the other did not know whether he was alive or dead. The only remaining Thor was also dying at the moment, being stomped on the ground by Li Yi and unable to move. At the moment they want to tell the world. They are in a panic now. I said, young Thor, I gave you a chance, and I hope you will cherish it. At this moment, Thor's state is extremely miserable, his limbs are twisted, and a large area of chest 5.9 is sunken. In front of Li Yi, who was fully fired, he didn't have the qualifications to support a few moves. Seeing the god-killing spear pressed against his forehead, Thor's heart was completely disillusioned, and he had already lost the will to fight. However, the spear that pierced directly missed Thor's hair and pierced into the ground. Li Yi smiled coldly. He grabbed the deeply wounded Thor. But seeing your sister's excellent performance, I decided to continue to be tolerant and give you another chance. He strangled Thor's throat, like throwing a softball, and threw it far into the depths of the starry sky. Thor flew backwards at a high speed in a shocking posture, and then turned into a star and disappeared above the clouds. Bring me a bigger surprise, young Thor. Throwing Thor, who was badly injured, directly back to Asgard. Lee Yi's eyes finally fell on those superheroes who had already been severely injured and physically exhausted. Next. Everyone of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's time to settle the score between us. Chapter 157 The Superhero's Choice, Only One Can Live. Boom. Unexpected. A heavy pressure appeared in the hearts of many superheroes in S.H.I.E.L.D. Facing such a completely invincible monster, they really didn't know what attitude to take to face it. Even more frightening, previously, all their efforts and attempts had failed. Whether it's Captain or Tony Stark, or even Captain Marvel summoned from beyond the stars. Everyone loses. The power of this man surpassed everything and completely shattered the hope in the hearts of every superhero. I've said before that we can talk, it's just, your attitude finally let me down. Lee Yi looked at the crowd, spread his hands and said. He stepped forward slowly, walking towards the many heroes of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the peaceful footsteps sounded like the movement of Death God, knocking on everyone's heart. In the invisible, their hearts became more and more heavy. Little Spider-Man, who was seriously injured, struggled to stand up at 21, trying to stop Lee Yi's footsteps. However, the next moment, his figure was lifted away by an invisible force. Let me think about how to punish you. Lee Yi touched his chin and said with a smile, a playful look flashed in his eyes. Or, let you choose for yourself. 2 or 2 teams, out of every 2 people, only one can survive. The calm voice echoed in the ears of every superhero, but it made them feel a bone-chilling chill. One must kill a companion to be eligible to survive. This cruel and bloody elimination is full of malice. Kill me, I will bear all the responsibilities. Captain Mei Jian, who was lying on the ground, clutched his wound and struggled and said, I can die, let them go. He didn't finish his sentence. The sternum was crushed by Lee Yi's foot. Advertisement. You have no right to choose. I let you choose, it doesn't mean you can refuse. Lee Yi said indifferently, the breath on his body became more and more terrifying. For him, the superhero's life and death are no longer in his eyes. Those who follow me prosper, those who oppose me perish. Where is Stark? Let me announce in advance that Mr. Iron Man and Winter Soldier will form a team. Lee Yi said with a smile on his face. Maybe other superheroes will choose to sacrifice each other because of the so-called sense of justice, but the fierce conflict between Winter Soldier and Stark makes Lee Yi really want to see the scene of these 2 superheroes struggling to survive. Can't understand people's language. Looking at the beautiful Captain Jian who struggled to get up and wanted to fight again. Lee Yi flew up and kicked him into the scattered ruins. As for you, just keep it first. Although there are many righteous actions towards the captain, Lee Yi does not look down on him from the bottom of his heart. But he thought about it, maybe the captain has some other uses. Lee Yi, I think we can still talk, S.H.I.E.L.D. has seen your mighty power. Natasha Romanoff bit the bullet and stood in front of Lee Yi. She tried her best to show her charming figure, and she was naturally flattering, showing the deadly elegance of the down and out beings. This veteran agent, whose real age is actually only 10 years younger than the captain, still wants to use his own charm to make the terrifying man in front of him restrain his murderous intentions. But this time Lee Yi fell into the sage mode for a little longer. There was a look of disapproval in the cold and indifferent eyes. Gudan? There is no need for this? Although I have a lot of time, it is not for you. While talking, Lee Yi suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed Natasha Romanoff's throat, and grabbed her loyal licking dog Hawkeye, who was wounded and fell to the ground. You 2 still come with me. Before the words fell, Lee Yi stomped his foot on the ground, and a terrifying crack emerged. Wujian Sandman and Ether Lizard, who were sealed by magic power, quickly tore the magic seal and broke out of the ground. Looking at the 2 dogs, they looked embarrassed. Lee Yi frowned and shook his head. It seems that after they are promoted, their strength is still a bit short, and the plan to summon the Infinite 6 Apostles seems to be advanced. Always let these 2 subordinates come forward. Sometimes it is really difficult to solve the situation when there are too many people. But what needs to be solved the most right now is another matter. Advertisement. Watch Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye in my hands. Lee Yi smiled coldly. The 2 of you don't need to play the game of 2 to 1 anymore. Anyway, I have already chosen for you in the end. Before the flower tone fell, Lee Yi's figure disappeared from the front of many superheroes again, and at the same time, the figures of 4 other people also disappeared. Almost in the blink of an eye, Lee Yi appeared on Vomir Star. For the vast majority of races in the universe, Vomir Star is an unknown place, extremely secretive. But this place is where the soul gem among the 6 infinite gems is stored. Soul gem is the most mysterious of infinite gems, few people have seen it. While other gems spread in the universe, causing all kinds of terrible events, Soul Gem has always been hidden outside the valley of Vomir Star, unknown. But for Li Yi, finding Soul Gem is easy. With the space gem in his hand, all locations in the entire universe are places he can reach with just one step. Although Hawkeye didn't react too much, Natasha Romanoff's eyes revealed a look of incomparable horror. Come down to Vomir Star with a few people. 250 along a winding path, they slowly walked towards a narrow deep valley. The specific information of Red Skull even appeared in Natasha Romanoff's early agent training many times. Why is this person here? He casually snapped his fingers, using the power of the power gem, directly turning the Red Skull into pieces. He took Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff and continued to walk deep into the Vomir star. The sky of Vomir star presents a thick purple, like a gorgeous and magnificent alien star evening. It looks extremely beautiful, but the two superheroes still don't know the cruel fate they are about to face. Definitely a memorable character, for any agent. When the ragged, ghost-like Red Skull appeared. This is a dangerous person who must be killed immediately by all means if he is found out, and even in order to kill him, the ongoing mission can be temporarily put on hold. They arrived at their destination, which was an empty and lonely cliff. An existence that makes the organization not hesitate to shelve the mission, but also to obliterate it. Looking at that Red Skull who was as dull as a gravekeeper, Li Yi didn't care. This kind of rubbish doesn't even have the qualifications to be a successor. As the most notorious existence during World War II. After a while. Chapter 158 Vomir Star. Mockingjay Bird vs Soul Gem? Under such a beautiful night scene, Li Yi unceremoniously knocked Natasha Romanoff unconscious. He looked at Hawkeye at the side, and said coldly, "Throw this woman off the lonely cliff now." Hawkeye frowned, and flatly refused. Out of the corner of his eye, he looked at the space below the solitary cliff. The purple clouds and mist filled the air, and he couldn't see any land that could land. This meant that the location of this solitary cliff was actually very high. Even for superheroes, their physical strength has limits. Jumping off such a high lonely cliff, with Natasha Romanoff's physical fitness, there is absolutely no possibility of surviving. Impossible. I will never throw him down. Didn't you want to choose one from two? Trade my life for hers? Hawkeye said without hesitation, with a resolute look on his face. He couldn't do such a thing to give up this woman for his own life, but if it was the other way around, Hawkeye was willing to sacrifice his life for Natasha Romanoff. The complex emotions with this female agent have been buried deep in Hawkeye's heart, and it was once an unforgettable love. Although now I have already married and established a business. But the special affection for Natasha Romanoff in his heart is still deeply hidden. For Hawkeye's request, Li Yi resolutely refused, with a domineering brilliance in his cold eyes. I am not negotiating terms with you, but orders. If you don't want to, then I have to go back to Earth and bring Mockingjay Bird over. Before he finished speaking, Hawkeye's face became extremely pale. Mockingjay Bird. This is his wife, whom he regards as the love of his life. After the emotional entanglement with Natasha Romanoff, it was the attention and companionship of the bionic bird that made Hawkeye walk out of loneliness. And that woman is also the number 19 agent under S.H.I.E.L.D. 2 women, one must be killed. Mr. Hawkeye, I have given you a lot of mercy. Li Yi said with a smile on his face, but the water-cooled smile was full of sarcasm in Hawkeye's view. It was impossible for Hawkeye to let these 2 women die for him, regardless of sacrificing either one. But before he got tangled up, he saw Li Yi staring at him with cruel eyes, and said in a cold tone, "Before my patience runs out, make your choice quickly, otherwise, you will only have to kill them both. Throw them all together." According to his understanding of the plot, Soul Gem was born in this way. Li Yi didn't want any more surprises. In fact, he also guessed the current situation, so he already had a bad idea. Advertisement. Seeing that Hawkeye was still full of hesitation, his eyes turned cold. Without any hesitation, he stretched out his hand and slid in the void. The next moment, a young woman in home clothes was directly pulled out of the void by Li Yi. Barbara. When Hawkeye saw the person who appeared, he immediately shouted anxiously. The young woman was none other than his wife, Barbara Morse, which is also the Mockingjay Bird in Li Yi's mouth. Mockingjay Bird. Meet your husband's ex-girlfriend. Li Yi said lightly. Why am I here? Mockingjay Bird's face was full of astonishment at the moment. She was still cleaning in her own home just now, and the next second she appeared in an extremely weird environment, and there was a creepy aura around her, which made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Kaylin Tay. At the same time, he also saw his injured husband appearing beside him. The unconscious woman on the ground was none other than the famous Black Widow Natasha Romanoff in S.H.I.E.L.D. As for the matter between Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff, Mockingjay Bird has already known about it. After all, she is an elite agent from S.H.I.E.L.D. Mockingjay Bird herself can be regarded as one of the superheroes, but now she prefers to retreat behind the scenes and run her own small family with peace of mind. Seeing her appearance, Hawkeye struggled even more painfully. Yo, it seems that you are not worried about your husband's ex. Aren't you afraid that she will take away the love in your husband's heart? Li Yi said lightly. The gaze in his eyes became more and more dangerous. He pointed to the woman in front of him, and said indifferently to the pained Hawkeye. This is your last chance, make your choice. Which of these 2 people should you throw away? A huge aura fell on Hawkeye's body in an instant, making him feel overwhelmed and crushed, and he was not allowed to have any rebuttals. If you can't make a decision, then I have to do it for you. How about 2 people throwing it down together? The terrifying voice echoed in Hawkeye's ears, forcing him to make the most painful choice. Natasha Romanoff. He spoke in great pain, his voice was like screaming, hysterical. I give up on Natasha Romanoff. Hawkeye shed tears and said in great pain. He couldn't even look at Natasha Romanoff when making this decision. For him, the bionic bird is a woman who can never be let down. This gentle and virtuous woman not only married him, but even gave birth to several gentle and lovely babies. Hawkeye can pay any terrible price, even face death? Advertisement, but he couldn't let his innocent children lose their mother. Sorry, Natasha Romanoff. If there is an afterlife, I will spend my whole life apologizing to you. Hawkeye mourned silently in his heart, extremely sad. Letting him choose to give up that woman with his own hands is undoubtedly a severe wound in the heart of this agent with a sharp knife. After Natasha Romanoff heard his choice, she obviously didn't mean to blame the other party, didn't say anything, and closed her eyes obediently. When Li Yi heard this choice, the corners of his mouth slightly curled up, feeling that things became more and more interesting. Since that's the case, go ahead and throw her down. The words fell. A huge force lingered beside Hawkeye. As someone who has experienced it, I advise you to be more honest now. If it makes me feel that you have any unexpected actions, I can assure you that your wife and the children who remain at home will be buried with Natasha Romanoff. Li Yi said coldly, his deep eyes were like the pupils of a dragon. For him, these superheroes are just toys to please him, and if he gets tired of playing with them, he can just throw them away. That's true for Natasha Romanoff. The same is true for Hawkeye. Under the torment of the inner struggle, Hawkeye had no choice but to start slowly. With his eyes closed all the time, he hugged Natasha Romanoff helplessly and walked to the edge of the lonely cliff. With her arms trembling slightly, the woman in her arms just fell into the abyss. Very good. What? Hawkeye let out a heart-piercing wail, his heart pierced like a knife. Li Yi, who was about to appreciate this most wonderful expression of emotion, was expecting and joyful at first, but in an instant, his eyes became fierce. Because he found that his plan did not seem to work. Although Hawkeye has sacrificed Natasha Romanoff, there is no sign of the soul gem buried in Vomir's star. Such a result is absolutely unacceptable to Li Yi. What about soul gem? Where did it go? Why hasn't it appeared yet? Li Yi frowned, thinking about all the steps just now. Everything went according to plan. And with 5 infinite gems, he can also be sure that the elf gems are above this star. Could it be that love isn't strong enough? He thought sullenly, and then Hawkeye, who was forcibly controlled by Mind Gem, threw Mockingjay Bird off the cliff without any hesitation. Since one is not enough, let's have another one. Chapter 159 Another Hope, the meeting between the devil and the devil. How so? When Li Yi threw the second woman off the cliff, what disappointed Li Yi still happened. Even though the 2 women who had a close relationship with Hawkeye were all sacrificed, until now the soul gem on Vomir's star still hasn't appeared. With, what have you done? Hawkeye, who was about to burst into tears, watched in disbelief that he was forcibly controlled by Li Yi with Mind Gem, and pushed his wife off the cliff. Losing 2 women who were crucial to him in a row. Even this turbulent agent couldn't bear it, but the next moment, a huge force came from behind. With an unceremonious kick, Li Yi also kicked Hawkeye off the cliff of Vomir's star. Since you can't even get the soul gem, there's no point in keeping you. Li Yi said indifferently, his expression became a little gloomy. The 5 infinite gems came easily and took almost no time. But only the last soul gem is so troublesome. Even if he forced Hawkeye to sacrifice 2 women, he still couldn't summon soul gem. What's missing in the middle? He frowned, thinking hard. Beloved, for Li Yi, such a person no longer exists. He roams free in this world, sowing his own seeds. After some time, perhaps their own offspring will be born. But there is absolutely no woman in 190 that he can fall in love with. Therefore, the only way to get soul gem, it is through the sacrifice of love through others. Tony Stark and Pepper, the relationship between the 2 of them should be regarded as sincere, right? Li Yi thought about it thoughtfully. Start looking for the right candidate. Hawkeye had been killed by himself. Finding another couple in a loving relationship after that is a bit difficult. Looking at the purple clouds surging in the sky, a thunder flashed in this man's mind. Ha 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 ha, how did you forget that guy? Li Yi suddenly burst out laughing. Hawkeye is not the only one who sacrificed his beloved and obtained the soul gem on Vormir's star. Advertisement: there is another man, known as the Overlord of the Universe. On this planet, he has also succeeded. Even Li Yi's idea of collecting 6 infinite gems in advance and snapping his fingers by the way was inspired by that man. Thanos, I didn't expect to meet you so early. Li Yi laughed loudly, and his figure disappeared from Vomir's star in an instant. Almost instantly, his figure appeared in the depths of the universe, above a dark star. Beyond the stars, one terrifying warship after another docked there in an orderly manner. Countless elite soldiers are practicing, killing decisively, exuding a terrifying atmosphere. These are warlike races from all races of the universe, but gathered under the command of Thanos, because of the Overlord's service. Thanos. This is a terrifying figure who is enough to make most of the gods in the universe frown, and even tremble with fear. He is dedicated to maintaining the true balance of the entire universe. Even at the expense of bearing the name of sin, along with the long battle, Thanos' cavalry has already leveled countless fixed stars. Killing half and keeping the other half, the Overlord of the universe showed his will with the most iron-blooded means. The universe needs balance. In order to avoid this universe, due to the lack of resources, it will become barren, and eventually destroyed. We must follow the will of Lord Thanos and clean up this universe. The generals under Thanos are giving lectures to the elite soldiers. Li Yi slowly stared at the dead star. His mental power instantly locked onto the figure on the other side of the star, alone on the throne. In an instant, his figure appeared before the throne. Who are you? On the throne, the burly purple titan said calmly. There was an extremely complicated emotion in Amber's eyes. Like the most sensible coldness and cruelty, but also mixed with great love. He loves this universe deeply, and loves all creatures in the universe. It's a pity that Thanos is destined to be different from others in his understanding of love. Don't care who I am, I'm here, just want to tell you one thing. Li Yi said calmly, his CBDB electric light looked at Thanos. On Vomir Star, there's a soul gem, one of the 6 infinite gems. Only by sacrificing the one you love, can you get it. I've been there, but it's a pity that there is no one I love in this world, so I can't get that gem. Advertisement, Li Yi said calmly, looking at Thanos who looked majestic in front of him. I know your goals and ideals, but command the army to carry out a galaxy-by-galaxy conquest. Don't you think this kind of efficiency is too slow? There are countless stars that give birth to life in the world. Are you sure you can kill half of the population of the entire universe in your lifetime with such an inefficient way of action? Facing Li Yi's doubts, Mie looked silent. In fact, he knew the troubles of this matter. This universe is too big, and some places are even too remote, not even recorded on the universe star map. If you want to rely on the army to clean up one by one, it is time-consuming and laborious, and it is easy to cause omissions. In Thanos' plan, the easiest way is to use infinite gems. It's just that before that, he still has some hesitation. Until a while ago, after hearing that in the depths of the universe, the Museum of the Great Collector was attacked by a mysterious person, and the gem representing power was forcibly taken away. This vicious overlord of the universe really made his own decision. Since everyone is robbing infinite gems, you can also get involved. Looking at the young man with a calm expression in front of him, Thanos recognized his identity in an instant. The mysterious person who attacked the Great Collector Museum should have more than one jewel in your hand. Before he finished speaking, his figure quickly disappeared from this dead planet. He is also a terrifying powerhouse of the level Godfather. Being able to be the other half of the surviving people at the moment I snap my fingers. Space gem, and the power gem in the hand of the Great Collector, and maybe other gems. Thank you for collecting half of the infinite gems for me. Thanos sneered. He is eager to try, full of fearless posture. Thanos said coldly, the breath on his body was full of oppression. Sorry, I'm afraid I won't fight with you until Soul Gem appears. Thanos said calmly. As the overlord in the universe, even without the power support of infinite gems. As a reward, I will give you the magnificent miracle of standing beside me and witnessing the withering of half the life in this world. Space gem. Really powerful. However, seeing Thanos' covetous look, Li Yi shook his head calmly. He stretched out his hand, and a double-edged sword was summoned by him. Amber-colored eyes stared at the void, the cosmic overlord said coldly. Definitely, I hope you are lucky enough too. Looking at the mysterious person who suddenly appeared, he left quickly. Chapter 160 London Holy Place, Book of Darkness, boom. Boom. Above the stars filled with endless death. A huge legion is rapidly gathering. The gigantic war behemoth, carrying countless elite soldiers, flocked to the depths of the universe. The point of the sword was that almost unknown desolate star. Vomir Star. Follow the orders of the Supreme Overlord. Go to that star, conquer everything for the Overlord, and seize the Soul Gem. Several Legion generals quickly issued orders. Mobilize the extremely magnificent and terrifying Ultimate Legion, and go to the depths of the universe. Above the flagship, purple sweet potato essence Thanos sat on the throne, and the double-edged sword beside him exuded a piercing cold light. The infinite gems of the entire universe have appeared. Even the most mysterious soul gem has been exposed. Thanos looked at the starry sky, staring at the stars with his deep eyes. He had watched the years and watched the stars go to destruction one after another, waiting for this day. In the past, there seemed to be other powerful existences who wanted infinite gems. But in the end, it all failed. So many infinite gems appeared at one time today, proving that the collectors seemed to be about to succeed. This made him somewhat excited. That place seems to be Chu? Is that person also from there? Thanos' eyes fell to a very distant ancient galaxy, thoughtful. Thinking of the mysterious man who suddenly appeared just now, Thanos' eyes shone with an astonishing light. Some people can feel the completely different qualities in each other just at the first sight of meeting for the first time. A very dangerous existence, Thanos said with a faint smile, but it's also very interesting. At the same time, deep in the starry sky, Li Yi stood on top of the flying meteor, watching the surging army marching towards the depths of the universe. His expression was extremely calm, even with a touch of anticipation. Don't disappoint me, old man. Thinking of a certain nickname of Thanos, even Li Yi couldn't help chuckling. Advertisement now he has gathered 5 infinite gems, only the last one is needed to do something reckless in this universe, and to obtain the task of Soul Gem. Li Yi handed it over to Thanos without any hesitation hands. A lot of things don't even need to be said. Just swinging yourself in front of Thanos and showing off the power of infinite gems is enough to make the cosmic overlord pamper him. No one can resist the temptation of infinite gems. What's more, the powerful artifact is actually in the Annihilation Room, and the reason why it hasn't been really promoted is entirely due to external restrictions. In fact, for a long time, not even Thanos knew where those infinite gems were. Although there are occasional rumors related to infinite gems in many places, when Thanos sent his men to inspect, the final result was extremely disappointing. In those places, perhaps the infinite gems did appear, but long ago. Today's infinite gems are drifting in the universe. Those who own them cannot display the true power of the gems, and those who desire them cannot find the gems. We'll see you again, on the throne, Thanos said softly, with an extremely certain look on his face. In fact, he is a very intelligent existence. Whether it is combat power, magic ability, or even one's own intelligence, they are all top figures in the entire universe, and even gods cannot match them. Even without infinite gems, Thanos can still keep pace with the Celestials in the universe by virtue of his powerful ability, and become the cosmic overlord who controls the huge army. He knew very well the reason why Li Yi appeared in front of him. He even took the initiative to tell himself where the soul gem is. I know, you really want that gem. Thanos sighed softly, his eyes became fiery, exuding a terrifying majesty. But I also really want to get the gems you have, compared, the amount is amazing. Thanos guessed that the mysterious person who appeared in front of him had at least 3 gems, or even 4 space gems, and the power gems in the hands of the Great Collector. Now, it is very likely that they are all in the hands of this mysterious person. This is a game between the strong. It is also absolute confidence in his own strength. Thanos knows Li Yi's intentions, but he is also willing to cooperate. Because, he has the certainty of victory in his heart. After I get the soul gem, whenever that mysterious person dares to appear in front of me, he will definitely move, use all his strength to defeat the opponent, and thus gather other infinite gems. Asking for flowers. I am Destiny. At this moment, the cosmic overlord sitting on the warship said in a low voice. Advertisement: a huge domineering coercion rage. With the army of Thanos, kill to the depths of the universe. However, Li Yi suddenly turned around and returned to the Earth in world number 2. Suddenly he remembered something. Something very unique. Although it doesn't seem to have much power, it records the supreme magic that can be called the oldest taboo in the entire universe. Book of Darkness, I almost gave this treasure to you. Walk on the bustling streets of New York. Li Yi looked at the ancient buildings full of exotic styles around him. He is looking for the location of the holy place in New York. Oh. A figure swaggered into the holy place. Therefore, the curses of those magicians on Li Yi often ended without a problem. Almost all magicians are full of resentment. Now, get out of this holy place auditorium. He said lightly. Give you a piece of advice full of tolerance. Since these days, some magicians have even been fiddling with some curse altars, trying to curse that damned man, but the effect is almost non-existent. It even caused the magician itself to suffer backlash. For the magicians in the world, the existence of the holy place is the belief in their hearts and represents the highest glory. Any sorcerer supreme is the leader they absolutely support. So for Li Yi, who hurt the previous generation's sorcerer supreme Ancient One, the power of the space gem helped him instantly lock the huge holy place hidden in the different space. Although I don't know, and I don't want to know, what are your names? In front of Li Yi, who has the blood of the dragon, the magic resistance attached to his body is almost immune to all magic in the world. Except for the chaos magic that really belongs to Sorcerer Supreme and Scarlet Witch, it is almost difficult to have other magical powers that can cause damage to him. Li Yi's voice echoed calmly in London's holy place. Boom. With calm eyes, he watched the flustered magicians. You guys, long time no see. It made the magicians who gathered here feel very flustered. Such a character is not something they can fight against. Chapter 161: A Higher Dark Dimension. Who is the real master of darkness? Before I count to 0, you still have a chance to escape in the last few seconds. Li Yi looked down at the crowd, and slowly stretched out 3 fingers. 3 equals. The imposing manner emanating from Li Yi's body is full of pressure. An incomparably powerful sense of fear instantly invaded those magicians staying in the holy place in London. They made their own decisions one after another. Some of them left in a panic and fled directly through this space, while others showed a look of death as if they were at home. Even though they are inferior in strength, they are also unwilling to give in. Even if they die, they will be buried together in the holy place in London. Well, in reality, there are always some people who don't know good from bad. Stupid loyalty makes people pitiful. Li Yi said lightly, and then all his fingers were bent. Boom. The surging energy fluctuations raged out in an instant, overturning the entire 747 London holy place, including those magic items that guarded the holy place. Under the bombardment of this man's incomparably terrifying power, all of them were destroyed. This. Why is this B********** D so strong? It can't be the power of a magician. Save, pickle. Those magicians guarding the holy place in London screamed in despair. As strong as the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One in the past, it can't be like Li Yi, who can operate magic power with ease, destroying high-rise buildings with just a few fingers, and destroying New York holy place together. You must know that the space inside this holy place is completely different from the outside world. It is blessed by the magicians of all ages, and it is extremely stable. Let alone destroying it, even if it invades the magic holy place, it is quite difficult to enter the gate of the magic holy place. Things. Ants can't understand the eyes of the gods. In your eyes, the so-called magic is just the worst transportation technique. Li Yi said nonchalantly, and he walked slowly towards the depths of the holy place in London. The purpose of this trip is not for them, but to find the book of darkness that was hidden in the deepest part of the holy place and was sealed. Dark magic, I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Advertisement, I don't know how different this so-called dark power is from holy hand magic. Vaguely, Li Yi's heart was also touched. His intuition made him feel the existence of dark magic, which might have an unexpected and amazing effect on him. Leave here. An extremely strong magician rushed over, with a tragic expression on his face, wanting to die with Li Yi. At that moment, he had opened a space leading to another dimension with the magic wand in his hand. As long as he could touch Li Yi, he could be taken away from the holy place in New York. The next moment, those trembling hands finally grabbed the man in black with a stern face. A look of astonishment and surprise appeared on the magician's face. Actually, it succeeded. London holy place will be saved. I can take this demon away from here in an instant. Almost in an instant, the magician quickly activated the magic. However, the distorted space-time dimension quickly collapsed until it disappeared when the magician was incomparably stunned. Everything around has returned to its familiar look. It is still the holy place in London. The devil-like man with a sneer on his face was still standing here calmly, his eyes slowly cast over, revealing a look of pity. Sad little fool, don't you know that the space gem is with me? In the palm of Li Yi, a piece of infinite gems blooming with brilliance, shining brightly, in front of Li Yi who controls the space gem, let alone these magicians who practice in the holy place. Even in the face of the previous Ancient One magician, he would never want to defeat himself from the mirror world. The magician is the person who created the mirror image space, but he has become the master of all the spaces. With a slight twist of his hand, he crushed the astonished magician in front of him. The splashed blood fell into the ruins of the holy place. At this moment, the London holy place, one of the 3 most holy places in the world, completely fell under the footsteps of this man. He didn't stop, but walked slowly behind him. The power of the Book of Darkness is becoming clearer. The powerful seal arranged in the holy place is meaningless to Li Yi, and it will be completely destroyed with just a flick of a finger. Advertisement, sure enough, it didn't disappoint me. I didn't expect to find such a surprise here. A black divine tome exuding a terrifying aura slowly emerges from the seal of the holy place. It is a book of darkness that records all the dark magic in this world, and even has the ability to communicate with other dimensions and dark dimensions. But for Li Yi, this book of darkness also has an unexpected role for him. Almost at the moment of his touch, all the knowledge changes in the book of darkness flowed into his mind with the torrent. Now he has become the holy master of world number 2, and he also has extremely profound magical attainments. At the same time, the blood of the dragon is completely awakened, and his monster-like physique is enough to withstand the impact of this wave of knowledge. A terrifying black aura emerged from behind Li Yi, and Wujian Sandman and Ether Lizard, who followed behind, stayed there in a daze. I feel the master's aura is becoming more and more terrifying. If he was like a Mephisto walking in the world before, now he is an existence beyond the gods. The lizard man said in disbelief, his eyes filled with shock. After obtaining a trace of the power of the ether gem, he already understood how powerful he is now to an astonishing degree. In the past, those superheroes who could cause big troubles to themselves became the targets of wanton beatings. Only by standing in front of Li Yi and feeling the incomparably terrifying aura and coercion of the master, can the lizard man regain his humble attitude. Sandman didn't say a word, but there was more excitement in the underarm hair. The stronger Li Yi is, the greater his hope of resurrecting his daughter. Although the time I followed Li Yi was not long, but during this time, I experienced a lot of chaos and wars. Traveled to the universe several times, and saw other powerful races and terrifying existences. The more extensive one sees and hears, the stronger one's loyalty to the master will be. Who doesn't want their 5.2 backer to be strong enough? Lizardman and Sandman witnessed Li Yi's metamorphosis at this moment. Terrifying dark forces quietly descended from other dimensions, condensing on the body of the Holy Lord Li Yi. That kind of power didn't even flow in spontaneously, it was more like being attracted by the dark divine book and forcibly plundered by Li Yi of the controller Infinite Gems. Suddenly, Li Yi, whose eyes were red and exuding a bloody light, let out a roar. His body turned into a dragon again, and then his claws tore apart the space. I said it long ago. Dormammu, I will come to you. Li Yi exuded an extremely terrifying aura, and he instantly aimed at that special dark dimension. The black flame dragon standing upright rushed into the space crack with an unstoppable posture, and his true body rushed towards the dark dimension that terrified countless worlds. Advertisement Chapter 162 Dormammu, I'm here to negotiate terms with you, Holy Lord Dimension. This dark dimension is a very special different dimension, a higher dimension above many worlds, representing the source of the dark side in all universes. The reason why the ancients of Sorcerer Supreme were able to obtain greater power to maintain the balance of the world and resist many invasions from the outside world. It is because they once made a contract with the dark dimension. With the help of the dark power here, definitely. While possessing those powers, Ancient One was also attacked by dark magic. Even if she was not defeated by Li Yi and became the main sacrifice of the blood of thousands of people, but in the near future, she will also fall into the hands of a certain apprentice because of the dark magic city. But this time, Li Yi came to the dark dimension for a completely different purpose, and his expression was unprecedentedly excited. Feel the incomparably rich and surging dark breath in the dimension. The state of the Lord Li Yi at the moment, it's a blast. Small bug, you really dare to come here. In the dark latitude, a fragmented face appeared slowly accompanied by a few muffled thunders. This face is glowing with colorful colors, like the collection of infinite extreme will and negative emotions. Okay. Li Yi frowned slightly. 5 jewels, spinning slowly beside him, undoubtedly attracted Dormammu's attention. The gift that came to my door really surprised me. 5 infinite gems, this power is enough for me to invade the real world. No one, stop my footsteps again. Seeing this man in the dark dimension with 5 infinite gems in the strongest form of the Holy Lord, Dormammu suddenly became extremely excited. In the past, the Ancient One, who had seized part of the power of the Dark Dimension, was able to fight against itself with the Eye of Agamotto. While stealing the power of the Dark Dimension, it can also block its own invasion of reality. If I can take away 5 infinite gems from this man, then the entire real world will fall into my hands, and even those members of the Celestial Group who get in the way can no longer stop me. Gift? Advertisement? No, Li Yi said in a calm voice. Dormammu, I'm here to negotiate terms with you. Conditions? Stupid humans just say stupid things? Dormammu sneered, showing murderous intentions in his smile, and the terrifying power condensed in the Dark Dimension. As the controller of the entire Dark Dimension, Dormammu's power here is almost endless, and it is originally in existence beyond the dimension, immortal, and no matter how powerful the seal is, for him, it can only trap it small a period of time. In the eyes of beings at this level, time is actually the least valuable. They watched for unimaginably long years. The long history of life can even be traced back to the moment when many infinite worlds were born before the Big Bang of the stars. What an incomparably raging and crazy breath. Li Yi shook his head calmly, and the Book of Darkness sealed in the holy place appeared in his hand. He carefully observed the magic knowledge recorded on it, as well as the corresponding rituals. You know, in another distant world, I also have an army that is invincible and invincible, more terrifying than any army in the world. Even the so-called army under Thanos cannot compete with Russia. Li Yi said lightly. In the Dark Dimension, he can feel that the shadow space he owns has been active to the limit. In the space, those shadow core loyal to him are also about to move. As long as there is a suitable opportunity, they can break the rules and get rich, rushing into the number 2 world. In fact, judging from the current situation, although Li Yi's changes and influence on the number 2 world are great, they have not reached such a terrifying level. Most of his activities are still limited to New York. It's just a few trips to distant places by the way, and a few battles have been launched in individual galaxies. However, it is precisely these few battles that have had an extremely far-reaching impact. In the following time, those who were defeated or even killed by him will trigger various fluctuations in fate. The future of the entire universe will therefore undergo unpredictable large-scale changes. The impact of the large-scale change of the universe and invisible is enough to shake the law of the universe, allowing Li Yi's shadow army to come to the world again. And compared to world number 1, today's Li Yi has a natural advantage. He holds 5 infinite gems in his hands. This is the truly terrifying power. Only the last gem is needed, and he can control a large part of the cosmic rules of this number 2 world. All world lines will converge on his color. That is beyond the power of the celestial race. Advertisement. Not even Dormammu, Lord of the Dark Dimension, can stand against him. Feel this power, my believers, obey my call, and descend again in the dark space. Li Yi said calmly. In the next moment, one after another, pitch-black figures swooped out from the shadows under him. The figures were vigorous and powerful, like extremely powerful warriors. When these shadow core appeared, Dormammu in the Dark Dimension suddenly felt an indescribable fear. It was a completely different kind of power, but it exuded an unusually pure dark aura, which even affected Dormammu's control over the Dark Dimension. What is this thing? Where did you summon these ghost things? Dormammu growled uncontrollably. He quickly mobilized the powerful power of the Dark Dimension, and was about to completely wipe out those shadow legions. However, the characteristics of the existence of the Shadow Core are also immortal. As long as the Holy Lord Li Yi is alive, the shadow space exists. And they shall remain forever. 847 at the same time. The power of infinite gems quietly began to be released in this Dark Dimension. Li Yi's real purpose here is not Dormammu to be precise. Before conquering the Starry Sky universe, take this place as your base camp. Li Yi looked at the Dark Dimension in front of him and smiled slightly. Unleashing the Shadow Core in the shadow space is also a further improvement in strength for him. In this special dimension closest to the power of darkness, the Shadow Legion was also able to break through the limit of the entire universe rule and come again, even though this time they had only one opponent. Terrible magical powers continue to appear, accompanied by various attributes such as lasers, thunder, and flames. In the Dark Dimension, Dormammu is about to kill. However, the Black Shadow Legion in front of us could not be completely eliminated anyway, and even with the increasing number of Black Shadow Legion, the entire Dark Dimension began to be affected by them. Somewhere, the Dark Rule has changed. Dormammu keenly felt that the dark power he controlled began to gradually decrease. How to kill a god who is rooted in the Dark Dimension and is almost immortal? On this point, Li Yi undoubtedly has a great say. His expression was very calm, watching that crazy Dormammu going towards self-destruction in madness. Chapter 163. The Celestial Group warns that the last gem is about to appear. Since the form of existence, it is destined to be indelible. Then replace it. Li Yi said calmly. The dark aura on his body exploded completely, accompanied by the emergence of one kind of Holy Lord power after another. The dark rule that belongs to him alone raged in this dimension, quickly suppressing the dark power that belonged to Dormammu. In front of the Dark Latitude, 2 dark gods from different worlds have the most terrifying confrontation. Although Dormammu has an absolute geographical advantage in the Dark Dimension, his opponent, the obviously more terrifying power of the 5 gems, directly suppresses the Dark Dimension's support for Dormammu. And the invasion of the Shadow Legion has fundamentally changed the dark rules of the entire dimension. In the dark, the huge face formed by countless dark forces is gradually fading and shrinking. No, I won't die. I am the master of darkness, the dark side of endless dimensions, and no one can kill me. Dormammu roared wildly, his terrifying cry filled the clouds and fog, his breath it is as if the space is to be torn apart. Many creatures couldn't help trembling when they saw it. Only Li Yi stood there calmly, even wanting to laugh. That's right, you really won't die, but that doesn't mean I can't replace you. Looking at Dormammu who was roaring and struggling, Li Yi said calmly, the infinite gems in his hands were shining with earth-shattering brilliance at this moment. In this unique dimension, he can release his power as much as he wants without worrying about the infinite gems causing too much damage and destroying his private property. Time, space, mind, power, and reality. The entire dark dimension was overturned by Li Yi's power. He distorted everything, including the rule power that supports Dormammu's existence in this world. In the roar of incomparable despair, the Dormammu who ruled the dark dimension for a long time quickly dissipated, and then the whole dimension fell into dead silence. Infinite dark forces gather from infinite worlds. But no one can affect here at the moment. If you leave it alone, maybe after a while, a new individual will be born in this unique dimension. Become the next Dormammu. However, in world number 2, such a situation cannot happen after all. With a smile on his face, Li Yi calmly took over the entire dark dimension. Those shadow core occupying many spaces in the dark dimension quickly melted as if they were integrated with the entire dark dimension. Advertisement, but in the next moment, their figures quickly emerged from the dimension. The power of the black shadow space that Li Yi possesses is slowly combined with the power of the dark dimension, and is supported by the power of this huge dimension. While its own strength is getting stronger and stronger. The Shadow Legion also seems to have obtained a license to go to the real world. Real universe. In the depths of the starry sky, there is a huge group of gods sitting together like stars gathered. They stare at the universe and watch the changes of the years. Suddenly one of them was huge, as if wearing a crown like tall god, his pupils shrank suddenly, and he said in shock. I saw a terrifying future, unimaginable darkness descending from another dimension, covering the entire world, and all beings in the universe. No one can escape from that darkness. Hearing this, another god also looked towards the universe, staring at the incomparably bright stars. Then he said indifferently, the power of darkness? Is it Dormammu from the dark dimension? So his plan to invade the real world may succeed in the future. The huge gods gathered here at this moment are high-level figures in the entire universe. Each of them has the power to destroy the world, enough to wipe out a star. In the eyes of the world, they are called the Tiantian group, possessing the supreme status and the emperor. The source of the dark breath seems to be that ancient dimension, but that touch of power makes me feel a little strange and extremely scary. The members of the celestial group, who issued the warning earlier, said in a low voice. No problem, the real world is still stable and there will be no great danger. Even small-scale conflicts and disputes are irrelevant to the balance of the entire universe. At this moment, several other members of the Tiantian group spoke one after another, not paying attention to this omen of the future. Although the past and present of history are doomed, but the future is still full of infinite possibilities. Any slightest change on the timeline will lead to countless time forks, so even the celestial group cannot completely and accurately predict what may happen in the future. Even if what they see now does not mean that it will definitely happen in the future. What's more, Dormammu of the Dark Dimension is also an old opponent in the eyes of these gods. Even if he really invades the real universe, he can be driven back to the Dark Dimension with only a part of the power of the gods. A wave of darkness was conceived in the dark, gathering extremely terrifying power. In that dark dimension above a higher level, a pair of crimson and majestic dragon eyes slowly opened, eyes exuding an aura of annihilation, slowly falling towards the real world. Advertisement Vomir Star. In the depths of the universe, an inconspicuous small planet. Very few people come here. At this moment, it has already been surrounded by an extremely huge army, starship warships one after another, completely enclosing Vomir Star. This is the terrifying army of Thanos, the overlord of the universe. Wherever they pass, there is no grass, which is frightening. The planets he invaded were like straws, cut in half very neatly. All living beings follow the simplest and fairest choice between the two. The slack gaze immediately became dignified. He is determined to win Soul Gem. Money is good. Thanos recalled the words left by the mysterious man. In Thanos' eyes, a firm and tenacious will appear again, suppressing the painful emotions surging deep in his heart. Thanos whispered, looking at the woman who stepped down from the battleship. Only by sacrificing the one you love, can you get the Soul Gem? At that time, the child with a sharp knife in his hand wanted to assassinate him, but failed. It was seeing the childish eyes full of hatred that Thanos adopted her by mistake and regarded her as his daughter. But this time, in order to assist his hegemony, he needs to make this daughter pay something. The Overlord face instantly darkened. However, even for the Overlord, love is also an extremely scarce emotion. In the entire universe, among the vast races, who can get a share of love from the Overlord of the universe? Beloved, he also has a coincidence. In Thanos' eyes, there was a majesty and domineering arrogance, and he could feel the difference on this planet. The mysterious person who appeared in front of him did not lie to him. Gamora, my daughter, follow me. On the giant ship, the burly and terrifying figure slowly walked down and set foot on the purple star. The Soul Gem is indeed here. This is a child he adopted since he was a child, from a planet he sorted out. Her parents and relatives were all in that cleanup, and unfortunately became the other half of one half. Since Soul Gem really exists here, the conditions for obtaining gems must not be false. Chapter 164. the sixth infinite gem, Soul Gem, is born. Above the Vomir star, a burly and tall figure wearing battle armor walks slowly in front, followed by a girl with green skin, long wine red hair, and a tight black leather jacket with 2 daggers hanging on her thighs. She is the adopted daughter of Thanos, and also an elite soldier in the army, Gamora. All the legions under Thanos are in awe of this supreme cosmic overlord. Many people are shocked by his ambition to clean up the entire universe. The same situation may be seen by some as a demonic means of destroying the world. But in the eyes of others, it is the real savior. Father, what can I do to help you? Gamora looked at the purple sweet potato essence and asked Thanos, her face full of admiration. This place has the Soul Gem, one of the infinite gems, which is powerful. I need to get it, and you are my chosen assistant. Thanos paused, and Love responded. His face was very calm, exuding the majesty of the supreme overlord. No one knows what kind of thinking he has in his heart. But for this overlord, in the face of pursuing the great cause of a lifetime, any affection between children and so-called affection can be discarded. After 903 ticks, their figures stepped into the canyon and walked into the depths of Vomir Star. There, Thanos looked at the bottom of the unfathomable cliff. His amazing dynamic vision allowed him to see a few corpses lying there coldly under the cliff that was so high. 2 women and 1 man, it seems that death is not long. Have you tried it? Thinking of the mysterious man who appeared in front of him, Thanos smiled calmly. In this world, without true love, it is an incomparable thing. The powerful cosmic overlord said slowly, and then he looked at Gamora at the side. The requirements for taking the Soul Gem are very special, and you must sacrifice your loved one. Thanos' voice slowly rang in Gamora's ear, making this shrewd and capable female warrior slightly taken aback. Next moment, a big hand grabbed her body. Go, my child, the whole universe will remember your achievements and sacrifices. When I fulfill all my wishes, I will reshape a statue for you at the right place. Advertisement. Thanos grabs Gamora and throws her off a cliff. For this overlord, although such an action, CBCF, is painful, it is extremely firm, calm and indifferent. The expression on his face was neither happy nor sad, as if he had done a trivial thing. Only in the depths of the eye sockets, muddy tears welled up. At this moment, Nebula, who was following Thanos, was stunned. All along, she and her sister have been in an obvious competitive relationship. As one of several adopted daughters of Thanos, in Xing Yun's eyes, there is no doubt that his father valued his elder sister more, but for himself, he habitually ignored him. He was thus decisively and ruthlessly abandoned. Treat it as a so-called sacrificial object and throw it off the cliff of sorrow. The cosmic environment of Vomir Star is very special, and many magic methods cannot be used here. In other words, it was thrown down from such a high lonely cliff. For any creature, it is an inevitable end. A moment later, a blood-colored gem slowly rises from the abyss. It is magnificent and beautiful, but it exudes an extremely sad aura, which can evoke the saddest thing in the depths of anyone's soul. Soul Gem really lives up to its name. The moment he saw this gem, Mie's heart felt like a knife was piercing him. Endless, the memories related to Gamora came flooding in. Unlike other nominal daughters, to Gamora, Thanos really treated her like a daughter for a long time. That kind of father-daughter relationship is not fake, it is a real emotional expression. But as the Overlord, he has always had a very strong self-control ability in his emotions. He wiped out all distracting thoughts almost in an instant, and held the Soul Gem in his hands. I am Destiny. Thanos held the Soul Gem tightly in his hand, and his expression became more and more terrifying and frightening. In the face of the highest ideal, all good things can be temporarily abandoned. For the balance and circulation of the entire universe, all living things must be cleaned accordingly. Got the Soul Gem. Thanos decisively left the sad place of Vomir Star. People who have been sacrificed by Soul Gem cannot be resurrected even if they gather all 6 gems. What he has to do right now is to turn his grief into motivation, quickly summon his army, and rush straight to another direction of the universe. Advertisement. There is a place called 9 Realms. Many years ago, there was also a strong man who came out of that starry sky, conquered the north and south, was honored as the king of gods, and also possessed extremely powerful strength. That person also wanted to find the infinite gems scattered in the universe, but failed in the end. I can feel that the rest of the gems seem to be gathered there. It seems that a long time ago, the person known as the King of Asgard did a good job. Even if he didn't find the Soul Gem, he still collected a large part of it. Thanos let out a low growl, looking more and more expectant, as if the remaining gems were close at hand. In the ruins of Holy Place in New York, a calm black-robed figure walked out slowly. At this moment, Li Yi, although his appearance is the same as usual, but the clothes on his body have undergone obvious changes. The original tight-fitting black clothes turned into a black dress with mysterious patterns at this moment. Behind him was a dark purple cloak representing endless dark power, fluttering in the wind. The incessant Sandman and the Ether Lizard knelt down one after another, looking pious. They felt that the Master's aura seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. After successfully devouring Dormammu, he became the master of the entire dark dimension. Li Yi's power was further strengthened, and more importantly, the originally restricted shadow space was liberated. Come out, my servants, I have been waiting for you for a long time. Show your fangs in this world, leave your F*** G ability in this F*** G world. Li Yi whispered. Immediately, the shadow under his feet expanded rapidly, and one after another, burly black shadow legions emerged quickly. They are transformed by pure dark power, and even have the support of power from the dark dimension, and their shapes are becoming more and more strange and changeable, immortal. A single Black Shadow Legion is enough to rival those superheroes. And the Black Shadow Army in Li Yi's hands now is as numerous as stars. From now on, in the entire universe, there is no legion that can compete with him. Dark magic is really mysterious, no wonder Shungtian is so obsessed with it. At this moment, Li Yi, who has the template of the Holy Master, said in a low voice, chaotic magic power emerged from the palm of his hand. Now I have 5 infinite gems in my hand, and the last one is still missing, and I can completely gather them. For that one infinity gauntlet that's practically dispensable. Li Yi had another wonderful idea.